And the subject matter is going to be dealing with how many days are there in a month? Is it 30 days in every month? Is it 29 and 30 days in a month? And he's going to come forth and do a presentation. And if there are any questions or comments, you can send them by way of the internet, by way of Ustream, or by way of Facebook, or you can call in. Call in to area code 513-377-5815. But what we want you to do is listen very attentively, and please take notes. Please take notes, but listen very attentively. And for no further delay, I'd like to bring forth one of the servants of Yah, Minister Mowreh IshiYAH ben Israel. Let us all rise. Hallelujah. 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 Yah is righteous all the time, and Yah is holy. And before after we start off, I'm going to have my brother YIsraEL. He would like to open up with a prayer.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Give it all praises, all glory, and all honor unto the mighty Yah, the only Elohim, the only King, the only Judge, the only Lawgiver, the only Redeemer, and the only Savior of Yisrael and the world. We give all honor, glory, and praises unto thee, mighty Yah, for blessing us to be alive on this day, thy holy Shabbat day. We thank you, mighty Yah, for allowing us to get through the week to make it to this day. We ask thee, mighty Yah, that you please continue to have mercy upon us and our forefathers, and that you may please, mighty Yah, forgive us and our forefathers for our iniquities, our transgressions, and our sins. For we have all sinned against thee, mighty Yah, even unto this very day. And mighty Yahweh, please heal your people. For you, Yahweh, are the healer. So please, mighty Yah, heal your people. Please heal us of all our infirmities, all our sicknesses, and all our diseases. Please, mighty Yahweh, heal us and make us whole. And mighty Yah, vengeance belongeth unto thee. So please allow thy vengeance to fall upon thy enemies and all those that afflict thy servants and thy people, Yisrael. Hallelujah! 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 Praise the mighty Yah. Yah is righteous and Yah is holy, and Yah God be magnified. Hallelujah! Hallelujah!
With no further delay, Mowreh IshiYAH ben Israel.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Praise the mighty Yah.
Praise the mighty Yah.
Yah's righteous. Yah's holy. Let Yahweh be magnified. You may be seated. Yeah, who I had the pleasure of meeting years when I first walked through the doors of the house of Israel. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
And Minister Mikael, hallelujah. Praise the mighty Yah. Shabbat Shalom. And to all the beautiful brothers and sisters here at the house of Yehudah. And I won't belabor you with a whole bunch of things because I know there might be a lot of questions. I will be discussing information about the Creator's signs, seasons, days, and years, and particularly the months as well as the moon. And before I get into my presentation, I do want to hand out a few gifts that I brought for some of our brothers and sisters. I don't have one for everyone, but y'all let me know, and I'll make sure that everyone will get one. This is for all the teachers. And all the beautiful ladies in the back. You got to bring some for the ladies. You just can't ignore them. This is some of the information I'll be going over, so you'll have an opportunity at your leisure to study these things. If we need more, we have some over here. This is for you, my beautiful elder. Mowreh IshiYAH, this is also for you. And I'll make sure I have another one for my beautiful brother Mikhael as well. And this is for Minister Yehudah. As soon as we get a chance, we'll make more copies of some of this information as well. This is also for my brother, for the elder as well. And just one more time, Azariah, for our other two ministers. Well, we get right into our discussions today. But first, let me say it's a pleasure and an honor. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here this day. My beloved brother called me and asked me to come, and I'm here. And it was a great honor. A great honor because I know the only reason why I'm here today is because people just searching for the truth. They just want the truth. And that's all people should want is the truth. For Yah is the only one that is the truth. All of us are just dust and nothing. We His creation. And any truth that we have came from Him. And so it's the Most High who has the truth. And in the course of our discussion, once I completed, then ask any questions that you all would like, and we'll try to answer everything. And I'm going to try to go through this as thorough and as expediently as I can so that we have plenty of time for any type of questions. Of course, I've been dealing with this issue for over the last 7 years, but let me introduce myself again. I'm Mowreh IshiYAH, YIsraEL of the House of Israel. I first came into the knowledge of the Most High around 1987. I was first introduced to the Creator's Word by my brother, or a couple of my brothers. One is deceased at this time, my brother Jerry, and also my brother Zerubbabel, which many of you all know. And he took me to the House of Israel in 1988. In 87, I just began to just study and learn and grow and study for myself. But in 88, he took me to the House of Israel, and of course, I never left since that time. And it was at that time, it was no doubt in my mind, I knew that was the truth. But almost 2 years later, I relocated to Atlanta, Georgia. And while in Atlanta, Georgia, Mowreh IshiYAH had Shabbat Shalom. Mowreh IshiYAH had gave me a number that I can use to introduce to meet the various Israelites in Atlanta, Georgia. A brother named Self, and this brother named Self, his father was also a teacher, and he took me around all around Georgia, and I mean literally all around to meet all the various Israelites. And as he took me around to the various congregations, Knesset, synagogues, wherever our people were, I found quickly in going all the way around the state of Georgia that our people were either dealing with two things. One, they were engrossed with Christianity, or they were engrossed with Judaism. Back then, they were using, back in 1989, they were using the Talmud for their lessons on the Sabbath day. And so many of the things that they were doing, or they were using the New Testament. And so I will report back to Mowreh IshiYAH that, the Israelites don't know what you're teaching in Cincinnati. And this is what, when Mowreh IshiYAH, as well as Mowreh Napthtali, who also was my teacher as well at that time, that's when they began to travel down to Atlanta, Georgia, to meet with the various Israelites in the community there, who I would get together to talk about the word of the Most High, because, as I stated, back then they just was not teaching the things that Mowreh IshiYAH was teaching. By 1991, 92, I began to teach myself, and I was inspired to teach by Mowreh IshiYAH. And by 1994, when we had our first restoration of the Sacred Laws Conference in Atlanta, Georgia, this is when he instructed me to form the House of Israel of Atlanta. And I formed the very first House of Israel outside of Cincinnati, Ohio. And we called ourselves the House of Israel of Atlanta because we were an extension of the House of Israel of Cincinnati, Ohio. And I began to teach there, and the rest is history. The only other thing I'll share with you, when I formed the House of Israel in Atlanta in 1994, we began to meet with various brothers and sisters around the country, and we began to travel with the restoration of the Sacred Laws Conference. That year we only had it 1 year, but the year after, we started meeting twice a year. And then the year after, by the time we get to the third year, we start meeting 3 times a year, because at that time, people really wanted to know what we were doing and what was this all about. And so that's what we began to do. While at the House of Israel of Atlanta, I relocated to Raleigh, North Carolina in 2001, where I formed the House of Israel of Raleigh, North Carolina. And I left the House of Israel in Atlanta under the leadership of Mowreh Israel, as well as my brother Mowreh Yehoshua Israel, and another good friend of ours who we call Pastor Moshe, that many of you might know. And we all was together and taught the same things, believed the same things, and we would literally meet every week on the phone. Now we're here today, and I'm came full circle back to Cincinnati, Ohio, and it's an honor to be here. Again, I was asked to speak about the months and the moon. The first thing I want to say about Israel. Israel is not like anybody else. We're very unique, peculiar people, as the Creator said we are. But just to show you how Yahweh sees us versus how everybody else sees us, and even how we see ourselves, the first place that I just want to share with you, just a couple things, and then we're going to get right to it, is one is in the book of Proverbs, the 6th chapter. This is how the Almighty see our people. But I want to show you this first. In the book of Proverbs, the 6th chapter, I'm going to read the 23rd verse. And this is what it says. For the commandment is a lamp, and the law is light, and reproofs of instructions are the way of life. And little do people know, when the Almighty ushered in the light, and he said, let there be light, little do people know the Almighty ushered in his laws, his commandments, his statutes, as well as his judgments. And this is real important to know, because it's going to demonstrate how peculiar of a people we are. You also find in the book of Isaiah, the 8th chapter, if you turn. So this here merely states that the law is the light, and the commandment is a lamp. But in the book of Isaiah, the 8th chapter, this is what it says in the 20th verse. It says, to the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. As I stated before, when the Almighty ushered in his and said, let there be light, he was ushering in his law. But he was also ushering in his word. And there's nothing above the word of Yah. And this is what's going to show how peculiar we are as a people. So the law is his light, and if they don't speak according to this law, there is no light in them. So what do that have to do with Israel? Well, in the book of Isaiah 42, this is what it has to do with Israel. Isaiah 42. And this is what it says in verse 6. And this is where some of the controversy starts. And this is what it says. I, Yah, have called thee in righteousness, will hold thy hand, and will keep thee, and give thee for a covenant of the people, for a light of the nations. Little do people know we're the light of the world. We're the light of the nations. And while the world looking at the sun, moon, and the stars, little we are the light. And I'm going to show you and prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is not a metaphor, that we indeed are the light that the whole world is going to go by. Furthermore, look in the book of Isaiah 49. Be a sun and the moon, because there will always be a sun and the moon. But it's not going to be light for you. Yahweh is going to be your light, and it's going to be your everlasting light. Now, most people don't know how that works. Well, we're going to explain how it works, because it works the same way today as it will work in the future for Israel. And how do I know that? Because the Creator said there's nothing new under the sun. Nothing new. What has been is now. And what is now is what shall be. And Yah required that which is past. So there's nothing new. I can't say this is new and then come to you all and say this is going to be a new thing when there is no new thing. And when Yah ushered in his life, he ushered in everything. He did everything in 6 days, and everything was done in 6 days, and he rested the 7th day. So I'll show you how these lights are to be seen by Israel. Of course, before we get right to the moon, the first thing I want to share with you is how we see the Abib. Because you can't talk about the Abib without talking about the months and the moons and the years and the days. So let me show you how to hard. If I'm wrong, correct me. Matter of fact, it's your obligation to correct me if I'm wrong about anything. And I want you to correct me, because who want to be wrong? And who want to cause our people to err? Nobody should have that type of heart and mind. And so I challenge you to challenge me. And the first thing is in the Abib. Now, what is the Abib for? Now, according to tradition, the Abib is for us to determine when our year begins. When any year begins, we must see the Abib. Well, let's see if that's what Yah says. In the book of Exodus 12, let us go there first. So this is on the Abib. In the book of Exodus 12, and you're going to notice that everything the Most High do, he does it in order. He does nothing out of order. So he's not going to put Genesis before Exodus, because Genesis is the beginning. That's where everything started. And likewise, in the book of Exodus 12, the first thing you're going to see, starting at the very first verse, it says, "And Yahweh spake unto Moshe and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you." And then it says, "Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month, they shall take to them every man a lamb." Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
"Ye shall take every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your account for the lamb. The lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. Ye shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats, and ye shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening." So we see when the Almighty talk about the Passover, the first thing the first time you read about Abib is when we came out of Egypt, never before. And why is that, when this is the thing that we're supposed to be looking for to determine our new year? That was seen backwards. That wasn't seen forward. We should read about Abib and then read about the beginning of the month. But you're not going to do that. Nowhere. Watch this in the book of Exodus 23. Turn there to see if I'm telling you the truth. And not only I'll show you when you are to observe the Abib, but then I'll show you how the Abib is supposed to be observed according to Yah. In the book of Exodus 23, this is what it says. Starting at the 14th verse. We still speaking on the Abib and how Yahweh see the Abib. 14th verse. 3 times thou shalt keep a feast unto me in the year. Thou shalt keep the feast of unleavened bread. Thou shalt eat unleavened bread 7 days, as I commanded thee, in the time appointed of the month of Abib. For in it thou camest out from Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty. Still talking about the Abib when we came out of Egypt. And why? Because this is what the Abib is for. It's supposed to be memorialized for coming out of Egypt. It was not to be memorialized for the very things that our enemies had taught us. And I'm going to continue reading. The word Abib is only mentioned in the scripture 7 times. When we are to observe it. And you'll read this. In the book of Exodus 34. We started at Exodus 13, the very first time it was mentioned. Actually, the very first time it's mentioned is mentioned in the book of Exodus 9, when our people were in Egypt and the Abib was destroyed. They just translated ears of grain. Exodus 34, this is what it says in the 18th verse. The feast of unleavened bread shalt thou keep. 7 days thou shalt eat unleavened bread, as I commanded thee, in the time of the month Abib. For in the month Abib thou camest out from Egypt. The only reason Abib is mentioned is because this is the month that we came out of Egypt. That's the only reason it's mentioned. And every time you don't see it, that's the only reason you're going to see it's for. No other reason at all. Now, when are we to observe it in the month of Abib? Well, we know we came out the month of Abib, the 15th day of the first month. And watch what Yahweh had to say about that in the book of Deuteronomy, the 16th chapter. Still talking about the Abib and when the Abib was to be observed. Now, surely Yahweh is not the author of confusion. If he wanted us to observe the Abib at any other time, would not he have said it? Everything Yahweh wanted to say and everything Yahweh did say, he said. And we don't have to add to it nor take nothing away from it. Watch what the Most High says in the book of Deuteronomy 16:1. This is what it says. Observe the month of Abib, and keep the Passover unto Yah thy Elohim. For in the month of Abib, Yah thy Elohim brought thee forth out of Egypt by night. So now he's not only telling us to observe the month of Abib, because in this month, he brought us forth out of Egypt, but he brought us out of Egypt by night. And that's real important to note, because I may add, I hadn't found no Israelite that actually observed the month of Abib at the time that Yahweh told our people to observe the month of Abib. Now, when did he tell us to observe the month of Abib? He told us to observe it. It had to be at the time that we came out of Egypt. It wouldn't make no sense. He keep repeating the same over and over, and we observe it at a different time. Watch what the Creator said that we were to do this in the book of Exodus, the 12th chapter. Still dealing with the Abib. And I'm going to start reading at the 40th verse. this is what it says. Now the sojourning of the children of Israel, who dwelt in Egypt, was 430 years. And it came to pass, at the end of the 430 years, even the selfsame day, it came to pass that all the hosts of Yah went out from the land of Egypt. It is a night to be much observed unto Yahweh for bringing them out from the land of Egypt. This is that night of Yah to be observed of all the children of Israel in their generations. And when is our people observing this night that we came out of Egypt? See, the Passover, we were still in Egypt. The Passover, we was not only in Egypt, we were in our houses in Egypt. The Passover, we were commanded not to even come out of our houses. But the night that Yahweh wanted us to observe, and not only wanted us to observe, he said it is to be observed, much observed unto Yah. It is a night to be much observed unto Yah for bringing us out of Egypt. And when was that? That was the time of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. That was the 15th day of the first month. And when were we to do it? And when we were to observe it? At the time of the month of Abib. And this is something that many of our people are not doing. So not only if you're keeping the Passover, the very next night, you're supposed to be observing your liberation, your freedom from Egypt. And why? Because that's the night that Yahweh freed our people. And nobody's observing it. Even though Yahweh said it's a night to be much observed unto him. But what our people are doing, they have a New Year celebration, and that's not even in the book. They celebrating the New Year just like our enemies are. And that's nowhere in the book. At all. Nowhere. But this is what we've been doing. And we're not observing what Yahweh said we were to observe, because this was the night of our liberation. And just one more scripture on this, and then we're going right to the next subject. It's in the book of Numbers, the 33rd chapter, Numbers 33. And I just want to show this scripture so people can see the actual night. And our people came out of Egypt by night. So we didn't come out by day. We walked through the Red Sea, or the Sea of Reeds, all night long. In the book of Numbers 33, this is what it says in the second and third verse. And Moses wrote their goings out according to the journeys by the commandments of Yah. And these are their journeys according to their going out. And they departed from Ramesses in the first month, on the 15th day of the first month, on the morrow after the Passover, the children of Israel went out with their high hand in the sight of all the Egyptians. So when did our people come out? The morrow after the Passover. When did our people observe our liberation? The night of the 15th. The night that Yahweh brought us Shabbat Shalom. The night that Yah will bring our people through the Red Sea. And again, I want to just add, Yah said it is a night to be much observed unto him. Now, secondly, the second thing I just want to go over, and that's the Abib. The next matter is in the book. We're going to start in the book of Psalms 104 concerning the moon. And I may add, every year we observe the month of Abib on the 15th at night. So I'm not just reading something to you that we don't do. In the book of Psalms 104. And this is what it says. Starting at the 19th verse. It says, he appointed the moon for seasons. The sun knoweth his going down. Thou makest darkness, and it is night, wherein all the beasts of the forest do creep forth. The young lions roar after their prey and seek their meat from Elohim. The sun ariseth, they gather themselves together, and lay them down in their dens. And man goeth forth unto his work and to his labor until the evening. But the most important verse that is relevant to us at this moment and at this time, he appointed the moon for seasons. And of course, many of our people also believe that the seasons, this word season means appointed times or set times. And we were taught, and I taught, that these set times is located in the book of Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, where it talked about and discussed the holy days. And as I began to study and read, this is what the Creator showed me about the moon, since he said it was for seasons. And I may add, he didn't just say the moon was for seasons, he did here. But he said the lights, period, are for signs, seasons, days, and years. But this is what he says specifically and particularly about the moon for seasons. And this is very important to know, because if you don't know this, then you can get your seasons mixed up. Like, for example, go to the book of Numbers 28, and this is the law. The word season comes from the Hebrew word moedim, which means set times, appointed times. So if you don't know what a season is, then this will perplex you. And this is what it says in the book of Numbers 28. It says in the very first verse, and Yah spake unto Moshe, saying, command the children of Israel, and say unto them, my offering and my bread for my sacrifices made by fire, for a sweet Savior unto me. Shall ye observe to offer me in their due season? And this word season here is the same season in the book of Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, and it is the same season in the book of Psalms 104 from the Hebrew word moedim. But here it's talking about the sacrifices that we had to offer unto Yah in his due season. Now, if we use the moon for season, then we will have to use the moon to determine when we are to sacrifice. Because it says we had to offer them according to their due season. And this is the season that we were to make the sacrifices in the 3rd verse. And thou shalt say unto them, this is the offering made by fire which ye shall offer unto Yah, 2 lambs of the first year without spot, day by day for a continual burnt offering. The one lamb thou shalt offer in the morning, and the other lamb thou shalt offer at even. So we offer 2 lambs a day, and these lambs are never offered by direction of the moon, ever. These offerings, the due season that these were to be offered, is just 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening. It had nothing to do with the moon at all. Even though the scripture said the moon is for seasons. But little do people know, Yahweh tell you exactly what season the moon is for. So for instance, in the book of Psalms 121. In the book of Psalms 121, this is what it says. And I'll get right to it. It says in the 5th and 6th verse, Yahweh is thy keeper. Yahweh is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. Yah shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. And why won't the moon smite thee by night? Because that's the season that Yahweh said the moon is for. He said all through the scriptures the moon is for the night season, because the night is a season. But he also let us know the sun is for the day season. You'll also find this in the book of Psalms 136. Starting at the 7th verse. And now we're talking about the moon. The word moon comes from the Hebrew word YIsraEL. This is the only word that I've seen in the whole entire scriptures. The word, the literal moon, translated in. No other word. And we'll get a little bit more into that. And this is what it says in Psalms 136. 7th verse. To him that made great lights, for his mercy endure forever. The sun to rule the day, for his mercy endure forever. The moon and the stars to rule by night, for his mercy endure forever. So anytime the Almighty deals with the moon, you're not going to ever see the moon dealing with, Yahweh dealing with the moon, telling you about a day. It's always, when he's dealing with the moon, it's always dealing with the night. And why? Because Yah even made a covenant with the moon. And this is the covenant. Well, actually, he made a covenant with day and night. And this is the covenant in the book of Jeremiah. In the book of Jeremiah, the 31st chapter, again getting straight to the point. This is what it says in the 35th verse. Thus is Yah, which give the sun for a light by day, and the ordinances of the moon and of the stars for a light by night, which divided the sea when the waves thereof roar. Yah folks is his name. If those ordinances depart from before me, says Yah, then the seed of Israel also shall cease from being a nation before me forever. And I think most of the house of Israel understand how significant and important this is. And I think we all agree on that part. And the only thing that I feel we have to search out a little bit more is that not only Yahweh made these luminaries or these lights to govern, one to govern the day and one to govern the night, but he also made them to separate the day from the night. And they had ordinances that Yahweh made a covenant with them that they will not transgress that covenant. And that is that the moon and the stars will be a light by night. And yes, it is true. You will see the moon in the daytime. And that don't infringe on Yahweh covenant at all, because it has no dominion. It has no rulership. And so just because it shows up at night don't mean that it broke a covenant. The covenant is still not broken at all. And just because it show up in the daytime don't give us the authority to now use it for the day, as many of our people are doing, even though he said it's a light by night. You'll also read this in the book of Jeremiah 33. Turn there. In the book of Jeremiah 33, still dealing with the moon. This is what it says, and getting right to it, 19, 20th verse, it says, and the word of Yah came unto Jeremiah, saying, Thus is Yah, if you can break my covenant of the day and my covenant of the night, that there should not be day and night in their season, then may also my covenant be broken with David my servant, that he should not have a son to reign upon his throne, and with the Levites the priests, my ministers. And he reiterated that same covenant in the 25th verse. And this is what he says. Thus is Yah, if my covenant be not with the day and night, and if I have not appointed the ordinances of heaven and earth, then will I cast away the seed of Yaakov and David my servant, so that I will not take any of his seed to be rulers over the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. For I will cause their captivity to return and have mercy on them. So here the Almighty is letting us know crystal clear that he made a covenant with the day, he made a covenant with the night, and that these covenants are not to be broken. As a matter of fact, they can't be broken. The only way they can be broken is in your mind. And our people, the only reason they have been breaking these things is because we have learned things from our enemies. So therefore, there was a time where we taught that a day start at night. We taught that because that's what we believe, that's what we inherited, and that's what we taught. Not realizing that this was a total contradiction of Yah's word. But if that is a total contradiction of Yah's word, where the day actually comes before the night, then that will automatically mean the sun will automatically come before the moon. Because the moon, Shabbat Shalom, And I'll repeat that. If we came to the conclusion and found out that the day comes before the night, and it does, then that will automatically mean that the sun will have to come before the moon. Because the sun is a light by day. And the moon is a light by night. So, and that's the order of Yah. And Yah wanted everything to be kept in order. That's why all through the scriptures you'll say, and ye shall keep my ordinances. The word ordinances actually means order. You'll see the word statute. You keep my statutes and my judgment. The word statute actually means order. Because see, we can try to keep things, but if we keeping them out of order, then of course we become out of order. And we become backwards, as Yah said our people have become. He said, now you are gone backwards. That's the word that Yahweh used. You've gone backwards. And of course, as we begin to learn and as knowledge begins to increase, then we begin to see, okay, yeah, Yahweh, you're right. You're righteous. There's a lot of things we learned that is backwards. Also, last thing concerning the moon. In the book of Genesis, the first chapter. Genesis 1. And right after that, we're going to go right into the months. Genesis, the first chapter. The very first thing the Creator said about these lights in the book of Genesis, the first chapter, the 14th verse. And Elohim said, let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to separate or divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. Now, the very first thing he let us know about these lights are they're going to separate the day from the night. So I don't want people to be real shocked, surprised, or even hurt, even though we all been, because Israel is so divided. And the reason why Israel is so divided is because that's what he made the lights to do. He made the lights to divide the day from the night. So once somebody said, okay, this is for the day, and we're supposed to keep the day, and somebody said, no, we're supposed to keep the night, you automatically was going to be divided. And this is where the divide came. It didn't came because we just want to be divided and that we just have a heart to be divided from one another, but we see Yahweh's word and people began to divide with the word of Yah. The only problem is these things are not impossible to fix. All you have to do is have the heart and the mind to want to know the truth. And we all can sit down and read this together and go to each verse. The Almighty said, who do you give knowledge to? Who do you make to understand doctrine? Those that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast. In other words, we all become babies. And then we sit down and we go over each line and each verse and go over each book and everywhere it is. And we say, do we agree there? Do we agree there? Do we agree there? And where we don't agree, we mark it and then we try to fix it. Because you know who Yahweh gave his word to? To Israel. The same, I'm teaching you his word now. But he gave his word to you also. And so now all we're supposed to do is sit down and discuss it. But we have issues and problems with people wanting to do that. Of course, not here, but around the country. And of course, I've been around a long time, so I know what the leaders will and won't do. Because I've been doing it a long time with the various leaders in the Israelite community. It says in the 15th verse, and let them be for lights in the firmament of heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And Elohim made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, once again, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And Elohim set them in the firmament of heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And Elohim saw that it was good. And I seen here that something very simple. The Almighty said, let these lights be for signs, seasons, days, and years. So I was always curious, why are people just singling out the moon? When the Almighty said, let these lights be for signs. Let these lights be for seasons. Let these lights be for days. Let these lights be for years. And what do they all have in common with one another where nobody should be confused about them at all? Well, they all was made on the same day. They all was made on the fourth day. That's like all of us being born on the same day. We're not confused of how old everybody is because we all born on the same day. So there is no confusion. Regardless if one go through this phase, regardless if one go through this formation, regardless if one go up and down, they all were still made on the fourth day. And the Almighty made them like this because he didn't want us to be like other people and begin to start singling out one from another. So now you have people, nations, that all they do is go by the sun. And they call it a solar calendar. And that's all they go by. And you'll read about this solar calendar in books like the Book of Enoch, which is in error. The Almighty never told us just go by a sun. And then you have people that just go by the moon. And they call that a lunar calendar. And that's all they go by. And this is why you have the various different months, where one month is 29 days, another month is 30 days, 1 year is 12 months, the other year is 13 months, and we'll get right into that. But this is why you have these things, because all they're going by is one light that Yahweh said is only part of the lights that we are to go by. And then you have some people, they go by the formation of the stars. And Yahweh never told us to go by the formation of the stars. He told us exactly what the sun, moon, and stars were for. And watch this in the book of Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter. We are a very peculiar people. The difference between us and everybody else, because at the end of the day, I can show you all this and you can agree with all this, but at the end of the day, you're still going to want to know, well, how do we know such and such and such? How do we know we to go by a calendar? How do we know this? How do we know that? Well, the only way we know anything, and this is the difference between us and everybody else. The only way we know anything is by Yahweh, by his word, period. Moses, who was raised up in Egypt and had the best education that anybody can have. And you know what the first thing Yahweh said to Moses? This month shall be the beginning of months. This shall be the first month of the year unto you. Well, you would think Moses would know when the first month is, if it was one to know about. But he didn't know. And why? Because Yah never told him. He never told him when the first month was. All he's been going by is other people. Just like us. We're going by other people. But Yahweh told his people, Yahweh will do nothing but what he first revealed unto his servants, the prophets. So everything that we know and everything we will know is by the word of Yah. Everything. We will know nothing by the way of our enemies. They gave us nothing that we can hold on to and say, this is it. This is the truth. And it came from them. And Yahweh must have gave them knowledge also. No, all their knowledge is inferior. And the knowledge that they have, if it was any truth in it, it will make Yahweh a lie. Because Yahweh said he will do nothing but what he first revealed unto his servants, the prophets. Now, in the book of Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter, this is what it says. 14th verse. And Yahweh commanded me at that time to teach you statutes and judgments. I'll wait till some of you all get there. And again it says, Deuteronomy 4, verse 14. And Yahweh commanded me at that time to teach you statutes and judgments, that ye might do them in the land whither ye go over to possess it. Take ye therefore good heed unto yourselves, for ye saw no manner of similitude on the day that Yah spake unto you in Horeb out of the midst of fire, lest ye corrupt yourselves and make you a graven image, the similitude of any figure, the likeness of male or female, the likeness of any beast that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged fowl that flieth in the air, the likeness of anything that creepeth on the ground, the likeness of any fish that is in the waters beneath the earth, and lest thou lift up thy eyes unto heaven, when thou seest the sun, the moon, the stars, even all the hosts of heaven, shouldst be driven to worship thee, and to serve them, which Yah thy Elohim hath separated unto all nations under the whole heaven. In other words, Yahweh gave all the nations the sun, moon, and the stars and all that, but not Israel. Do you realize that every time Yahweh, he gave it to us, but I want you to see what I mean by this. In other words, we don't go by the sun, moon, and stars like other people. For instance, do you realize, according to the scriptures, every time Yahweh talk about the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread, it is a biblical truth that is always in the middle of the month. Always. Every time Yahweh talk about the Feast of Tabernacles, it's always in the middle of the month, the 15th day of the month. The Passover, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, is the 14th and the 15th day of the first month. But you know what you'll never hear Yahweh talk about when he talk about these things? The moon. You'll never see him talk about the full moon. Now just imagine how that would clear everything up. And we will see where Yahweh will mention this moon in connection with the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. This big full moon, so we can know when the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread and the Feast of Tabernacles is. And I wonder, and I was curious, why come Yahweh never mentioned this full thing, this big thing, this great thing? Since it's so great in the eyes of our people, at least it could be mentioned one time. But do you know what Yahweh do mention when he talk about the Passover? He always mentioned the sun, because he said at the going down of the sun, at the time that you came out of what? Egypt. But he never mentions this moon. At least one time you would think he would say, look, at the full moon, at the time appointed. But you won't see that. You won't see the word YIsraEL. You won't even see the word Kodesh. The only time you'll see Kodesh is when it's marked by a date, the 14th month or the 15th month. But you will never see the word YIsraEL. But you will see the word sun or Shemesh, which is the Hebrew word for sun. And why? Because this is nothing that Yahweh wanted you to do anyway. This is something that we learned from other people. But he did divide this with the other nations. So I can understand why the Egyptians had the calendar that they had. I can understand why the Jewish people have the calendar that they had. Because Yahweh never gave them his word. When Yahweh gave us his word, then we knew how to operate through everything. And when we didn't know, you know who we went to? Yah. The Almighty told, when Moses didn't know something, he told the people, stand still and let's see what Yah has to say about this mountain. And this is how we're supposed to operate today. If we don't know, we're supposed to go to Yah. We don't supposed to assume nothing, and we don't supposed to lean to our own understanding and go by our own imagination. We're supposed to go straight to Yah and ask him to show us. And this is what we should be doing today. So the moon, all through the scriptures, is made for a light by night. Now, what about the word month? The word month comes from the Hebrew word Kodesh. You'll also see the word month in a few places in the scriptures come from the Hebrew word YAH'S. And there's a great difference between YAH'S and YIsraEL. It's a gigantic difference. And I'll show you that difference. But this is what the Creator said about a month. Because at the end of the day, whether it's a moon, whether it's a month, you still got to know, well, how many days in it? Is it 29 days or is it 30 days? And all through the scriptures, you're only going to see one figure, and it's 30. You'll never, ever see 29. You'll just see 30. And at the point that it says 30 days, that should automatically let you know that it couldn't be talking about the moon, because the moon was never for your days. In the book of Deuteronomy 21. In the scriptures, our firstborn males, we had to number them. And we had to begin to number them from a month old. So it was very important and essential for us to know what a month was. So we couldn't do like our people do today and wait the day before we see a new moon. Matter of fact, a baby's born every day. And so every day we'll be looking in the sky. But this is not something that the Almighty told his people to do. Look in the book of Deuteronomy 21, and I'll get right to it in the 10th verse. And this is what it says. When thou goest forth to war against thy enemies, and Yah thy Elohim have delivered them into thy hands, and thou hast taken them captive, and seest among the captives a beautiful woman, and has a desire unto her, that thou wouldest have her to thy wife, then thou shalt bring her home to thy house, and she shall shave her head, pare her nails, and she shall put the raiment of her captivity from off her, and shall remain in thy house, and bewail her father and her mother a full month. And after that thou shalt go in unto her, and be her husband, and she shall be thy wife. And it shall be, if you have no delight in her, then thou shalt let her go, whether she will, but thou shalt not sell her at all for money. Thou shalt not make merchandise of her, because thou hast humbled her. And so in this particular scripture, it lets us know the mourning time that we were to mourn our parents in death. In this particular case, this was a foreign woman who mourned her parents, and the scripture says a full month. Now, there's only one way to determine what a full month is in this particular scripture, because it don't say what a full month is. It just say full month. So I can interpret that one way, and you can interpret that another way. But since Yahweh said we only have one law for the stranger and for the homeborn, then let's see how they mourn other people. And that's when I go to the book of Deuteronomy, since we're in Deuteronomy, the 34th chapter. Now, if anybody will be mourned in an excessive amount of time, it will be the person that we're about to read about, and that's Moses. Why? Because there was no prophet that Yahweh spoke face to face as a man speaking unto a friend like Moses. And look what it says about Moses in the 8th verse, or 7th and 8th verse. And Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eye was not dim, nor his natural force abated. And the children of Israel wept for Moses in the plain of Moab 30 days. So the days of weeping and mourning for Moses were ended, because that's all we mourn anyway, 30 days. And Moses, as special as he still wasn't above the law. And as inferior this woman seemed to be, who was a foreign woman, she wasn't less than the law. And so both was mourned 30 days. One says a full month, the other one said 30 days. And we know Yah said a false balance is a what? It's an abomination. So he's not going to mourn him 30 and then mourn her 28 or 29. It don't work like that. We also find our priest, Aaron, in the book of Numbers, the 20th chapter. Numbers 20. When he was mourned. This is also the time when Miriam passed, and it didn't even say how many days Miriam was mourned. But it's not a stretch to assume it was 30 days. Because they mourned a foreign woman 30 days. So why wouldn't they mourn a prophetess 30 days? But this is what it says in the book of Numbers 20, the 20th chapter. And we're going to read the 23rd verse. Or get right to it, the 28th and 29th verse. It says, and Moses stripped Aaron of his garments and put them upon Eleazar his son, and Aaron died there in the top of the mountain. And Moses and Eleazar came down from the mountain. And when all the congregation saw that Aaron was dead, they mourned for Aaron 30 days, even all the house of Israel. Now in one scripture, like I said, it said, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. It says, it used the word full month. But in other scriptures, it just say 30 days. Because there is no difference between 30 days and full month. Little do people know the word month, all the word month is a collection of a set number of days. That's all a month is. A month is not a moon is not a month. A month is a set number of days. That's why you can set your age to it. That's why it can say generally, when you become a month old, you shall number such and such and such. Because everybody become a month old at the same age. They don't become a month old randomly and at any time. And why? Because a false balance is an abomination unto Yah. And he's not going to have these false balances. It's just like a foot is what? It's 12 inches. And if somebody gives you 11 inches or 10 inches, you're going to have a problem because you wanted a foot. And no matter where you go, a foot is going to be a foot. Or you don't have to say 12. In other words, if you go to the store and you say, let me get a dozen of eggs, and they give you 10 eggs, Then I said I want a dozen. I want a dozen. That's what I'm paying for. Well, our dozen is 10. Well, I get my money back because that's not a dozen. Then you find also in the book of Genesis. And in the book of Genesis, this is the very first time Yah ever speaks about, this is the first time he ever gave dates. The very first time. And I can understand why he did at this time with the man that he did it with. And this is Noah. And you'll find this in the book of Genesis, the 7th chapter first. In the book of Genesis, the 7th chapter, this is what it says in the 11th verse. It says, in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were open, and the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. And so the Almighty gave us various dates that we can look up and verify in His Word that what He was saying is the truth. In other words, we can go to the book just like we go to the Quran, just like we go to the New Testament. They said Christ was in the belly of the earth 3 days and 3 nights. So then we went to see, was he in the belly of the earth 3 days and 3 nights according to the New Testament? And we said, man, this guy wasn't in no belly of no earth 3 days and 3 nights. We can count. Well, you can do the same thing with Yah. You can go right to the book and count for yourself. And he said, Noah went in this ark the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month. And then it tells you exactly when he came out in the 8th chapter. Not came out, but when the flood waters stopped. It's in Genesis, the 8th chapter. And this is what it says. Starting at the 3rd verse. Well, let's say the 2nd verse. It says, the fountains also of the deep and the windows of heaven were stopped, and the rain from heaven was restrained, and the waters returned from off the earth continued. And after the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated. And the ark rested in the 7th month on the 17th day of the month upon the mountains of Ararat. And all you got to do is count how many days it is from the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month, to the 7th month, the 17th day of the month, and you're going to get exactly what Yah said, 150 days. And 150 days is 5 months, because it's 30 days in each month. It's simple math and science. And this is all I've seen through the scriptures. And there's many other scriptures I can go and show 30 days. But the first thing we discuss is about Abib. The only time you'll read about Abib is when our people came out of Egypt. And it's supposed to be observed for bringing our people, for Yahweh bringing our people out of Egypt by night. And we do that. On the 15th at night of the 1st month, we observe it. And we come together, we discuss it, we talk about it, and we celebrate our liberation that night. We talked about the moon, that all through the scriptures, the Almighty told us that the moon was a light by night. Never said anything about this moon that it's a sign by day, that we're supposed to see it, and then we're supposed to start counting days after we see the moon. This is not there. And now we're talking about the month. The month comes from the Hebrew word Kodesh. which just means a collection of a set number of days in this 30. And see, our people knew this. Last scripture on this is in the book of Genesis also, 29. Not 29. Give me 1 second. I just want you to see this real quick. Well, look it up for him real quick. And this is in the book of Genesis. Talk about the space of a month.
It's 29, 14.
Oh, okay, it is 29. See how you should have confidence in yourself? Doubt of myself. Doubt of myself because these glasses, I can't see anything. Genesis 29. And this is what it says. I'm going to read the 13th and the 14th verse. This is what it says. And it came to pass when Laban heard the tidings of Jacob, his sister's son, that he ran to meet him and embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his house. And he told Laban all these things. And Laban said to him, surely thou art my bone and my flesh. And he abode with him the space of a month. The word space, when you look up the word space, it comes from the Hebrew word yom, which means days. So really what they're saying, he abode with him the days of a month. And we know no moon ruled no days, period. Because Yah never gave the moon for days. As a matter of fact, he gave the moon to separate that night from the day. That's why as soon as night go into day, the moon and the stars is there to separate. And when the day go into night, the sun is right there to separate. Whether it is evening or whether it is morning, they always there to separate. Always there to separate. And the space of a month or the days of a month is always 30 without faith. There is no other scriptures on any other day. And of course, our people, they keep 28 days a month, some 29 days a month, some 30 a month, and then surprisingly, some 31 days a month because they go by the Gregorian calendar. And then we also find that amongst the years. Now, what is a year? The word year comes from the Hebrew word shana. And this word shana, all it is a collection of months. That's all a year is a certain set number of months. And it doesn't matter. Yah is so beautiful and righteous. He's not like the heathen, and we can't be like the heathen. So if the Almighty numbered a dog, he's not going to give you dog years and then give you some other years. Anytime the Almighty numbered anything, it was for everything. I don't care if it was a plant, a cattle, a beast, a fish, it don't matter. If he numbered it, it was going to be the same way he numbered everything. So we numbered the same way everything is numbered. And we're not going to be numbered outside of a month and outside of a year and outside of a day. We're not going to be numbered outside of these things. This is how we all are numbered. The only thing I've seen Yahweh never number is everything that came before the lights. So you won't see him number the heavens. And you won't see him number the earth. He'll just say these things are forever. But everything that came afterwards, and what came afterwards? Man and beast, and fire, and the sea creatures. And the heathens will tell you that these sea creatures and these beasts and these things are a million years old. And we found bones that's 100 million years old, and we found this and found that, and so they just gonna make Yah lie. Now we can believe it, but that don't make it true at all. So the last thing is our years, and the Almighty made it abundantly clear. This one particular verse is in the book of 1 Chronicles 27. And this is what it says in the book of 1 Chronicles 27. And I just get right to it. The very first verse. It says, now the children of Israel, after their number, to wit, the chief fathers and captains of thousands and hundreds, and their officers that served the king in any matter of the courses, which came in and went out month by month throughout all the months of the year. At every course were 20 and 4,000. Now, if this is the truth in how it is reading, it's talking about all the months. It says month by month throughout how many months of the year? All the months. I didn't add that. I didn't insert that word. And all the officers is going to name is 12. That's it. And the person whose leadership and direction that this was under was King David. A man after Yah's own heart. So if anybody gonna know the truth about the months, about the years, and about the signs of heaven, would not it be David? Surely it would be him. And what about his son? He reigned 40 years. And in reigning 40 years, you won't see not one other officer inserted at any time. 1 Kings, the 4th chapter. Turn there. Now, the second witness about the years, as I stated before, is King Solomon, which is David's son. Now, as righteous and holy and perfect David was, the Almighty said David was a man after his own heart. And he said David had a perfect heart towards him. But he said King Solomon was the wisest man that ever lived. Before him, and there'll be nobody wiser after him. So surely, if anybody knew the signs of heaven, it would be him. And watch what he says. 7th verse. And Solomon had 12 officers over all Israel, which provided victuals for the king and his household. Each man his month in a year made provision. And how long did he reign? He reigned 40 years also, right after his father. Now surely, if there had been another year, or another type of year, but not he had known, Now we got a perfect man and the wisest man back to back, and they didn't know. Or they didn't mention it. And they didn't mention it probably because it ain't worth mentioning. And it's just not in the book. And of course, Yahweh knows better than they, because Yahweh made them. And Yahweh himself didn't mention any other month other than the 12. And I looked at every single month. And I wanted to know how many times these months was mentioned in the scriptures. And I seen that out of all the months, there was no month that was mentioned less than 4 times. Every month had been at least mentioned at least 4 times. And 4 represents Yahweh's praise. But then I went to look for a 13th month, and that was mentioned no times. Not 1 time. And then I looked for a leap year, and that was mentioned no times. And I looked for a peculiar, exceptional year, and that was mentioned no time. And I looked at the prophecies to see if some way, somehow, the times got off. Because a brother mentioned to me, one of the teachers mentioned to me, he said, look, during the time of Joshua, the moon stayed still. And the sun didn't go down for a whole day. So in other words, even at night, they seen the sun. Because it didn't even go down for a whole day. And the moon stayed. In other words, it didn't. The seeing it didn't do nothing. They both stayed just by the word of Joshua. And he said, man, that had to alter the time. I said, no, that didn't alter no time. How is that altering the time? If that altered the time, and if that's what the Almighty was using as the barometer to see whether time was going to move or not, then he would have never made it on the 4th day. In other words, you had 3 days happening even before there was a sun, moon, and stars. So time was already in motion. All the sun, moon, and stars, Yahweh said, these are a light by day and a light by night. To separate the day and to separate the night. And it should be for signs, seasons, days, and years. And once you know their beginning, their origin, whether you see a moon or not, you can still number it because you know when it was born. You know when its beginning is. You know its origin. You know its starting place. Just like you know yours. Just like I know mine. Just like I know a beast that I put aside that the Almighty said, look, when you bring an offering unto me, let it be of a year old. Well, how do we know a year-old beast? Unless we count it and number the ages of beasts. And unlike everybody else, we kept records of everything. Show you how good our records were in this last scripture, and then I'll take questions on anything that I said. And this is in the book of Genesis 15. Because we talked about the Abib, we talked about the moon, we talked about the month, and I just showed a couple scriptures on the year, and I just shortened that, just so we can get to your questions. But in the book of Genesis 15, this is what the Creator told Abram at the 7th verse. In the book of Genesis 15 and 7, this is what it says. And he said unto him, I am Yah that brought thee out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give thee this land to inherit it. And he said, Yah Elohim, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? And he said unto me, take me a heifer of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And I ask people all the time, how did Abram know that this ram, this heifer, and this goat was 3 years old? And how did he number these things? How did he know? When did he start his count? Or did Yahweh find him a 3-year-old ram and a 3-year? How did he know? And he knows just like we all supposed to know. That and all the righteous supposed to know. We number everything. We count everything. There's nothing that we don't number. The only thing we don't number is ourselves. Because Yah said we shall be the sands of the sea and the stars of heaven. And so we never count one another. Even though Israel do. How many in your class? How many in your class? And they just start pointing out, why does that matter? How many in my class and your class? And I just want to know. I was just interested in knowing. So you just want me to sing. Because that's what you're doing. That's what the states and the cities doing. They just want to know your number. And since they want to know your number, now we want to know the number too. Because we just going by everybody else. But we knew, see, once we had cattle and we had stock and all that, look, our priest was told that when a beast came to them and they were able to eat it, they had to eat it within 3 days. They said, but by the third, Yahweh said, by the third day, get rid of that thing, burn it. Here the heathen got meat packaged up in the store for hundreds of all this time. We just go to town with it, man. Put that in the freezer to my birthday, and I'm gonna tear that steak up. And I freeze the freshest meat they couldn't eat.
That's right.
After 3 days. Third day, they had to get rid of that thing. Why? Because we counted everything. Everything was counted by Yah. And everything was after the number of the children of Israel. Because when Yahweh thought about us, he thought about us before the foundation of the earth was laid. That's how peculiar and special we are. So when by the time he got to the 4th day, he already knew how many months it was going to be. He knew that because he knew the people he was going to choose. He knew how many tribes it was going to be. He already knew what a dozen was going to be. It was already formulated in his mind. It was already planned and scripted. And the scriptures will tell you that. When the Almighty gave the nations their inheritance, he done it according to the 12 tribes of Israel. And you know how many generations and how many sons Adam had? Or generations, actually. 12. 12. According to the 12 tribes of Israel. And you'll read it in the book of Genesis, the 5th chapter. So at this time, I'll take all your questions. And thank you for your patience and indulgence. Hallelujah.
Shalom, family.
Shabbat shalom.
Glad to be here, y'all. I love y'all.
Hallelujah, hallelujah.
I'm talking to one of the brothers, and he told me I was born in 1985. So that means I was born in the 4th year, y'all. That's what he told me. Now, I don't know. That's what I say the brother was. But you know, but he did tell me the 4th year Yah, and I was thinking to myself, I told him, you know, that's BC AD, that's dealing with JC. So you know what I'm saying? How do you get an equation of JC years to Yah years when I'm going 4th year Yah in 1985? So what was that equation? You know, to change it from 1985 to Yah's years. How did he do that? You know what I'm saying? I don't know if he was just mistaken or not.
Right. Well, now that's a great question. Go to the book of Daniel real quick. That's a beautiful question. You don't want to say who the brother is, but you put him on blast. It's all good. In the book of Daniel, and I think it's going to be in Daniel, the 2nd chapter. Sure. Yes, give me 1 second. I might have to correct myself on that one. And I'm going to let you know in 1 second. Daniel, the 4th chapter. 4th chapter. And this is what you should always remember in dealing with the Most High. And this is what it says. Daniel 4:17. It says, this matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the Holy One, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basis of men. So in other words, there's nothing that's happening in this kingdom that Yahweh don't know about and Yahweh didn't orchestrate. He's behind everything. So in other words, I know people believe that they put Donald Trump into office. But no, Yahweh said he is the one that ruleth in the kingdom of what? Men. The only reason why this nation had 12 months in their calendar is because Yahweh ruleth in the kingdom of men. That's why when you see all these various calendars, all you're going to do is see 7 days in them. You're not going to see no calendar that had 10 days, and one got 11 days, and another one got this amount. Why? Because Yahweh ruleth in the kingdom of men. And so Yahweh, when you dealing with the truth, it don't matter what number you're dealing with. If you were born in whatever year that you were born in, yes, that can be ascertained to what year Yah years is. Yah only has 7 different years. Only 7 different ones. And then after that, all the years start to repeat. And why? Because Yahweh told us in the book of Leviticus, the 25th chapter, that we are to number 7 Sabbaths of years. So 1 Sabbath a year was 7 years. 2 Sabbaths a year was 14 years. 3 Sabbaths a year was 21 years. And then as soon as you get to the 7th Sabbath a year, now you got 49 years. And then the Almighty said the 50th year was the Jubilee. Well, not only that's how he counted then, that's how he counted at the beginning. And that's how Yahweh count, period. And so whoever told you that, all they did was divided your age in the year of your birth by 7. And then they came out with the 4th year. That's basically how they did it. And you might ask yourself, well, then how do I know, since they got 365 days in their years, they had 31 days in their months, they got 28 days in some months, they got 29 days in some months, they got 30 days in some months. So how do you ascertain all that and deal with that? If you're just dealing with the years, they still only have 12 months. And so your age is still based off of 12 months. And so that's what he was probably doing. And I don't know who it is. And I can't speak for them, but I only can speak for myself. Yes, sir.
Because I was like, around April was the beginning of the year, so I mean, what if I was born in 1985, in January? I mean, that might be the third year, that might not be the fourth year. I was born in June, and then be the fourth year. So the year started around April. You know?
So so at the end of the day, you just want to know. You just want to know, and we can talk about that, but it's based off of 12 months, and it's based off of YAH'S Sabbath of years. That's what it's based off of.
I was born in the month of April the 9th, 1953. What's the difference?
You know, like I said, the year begins, around that time. That's why I'm just saying, if it's before that time, it might not be the fourth year. You say I'm born in 1985, because before April, it might not be the fourth year.
Yeah, but it might, but it might be. And so you just don't know how he came to that conclusion. You just want to know how he came to that conclusion. And I'm telling you how, and then I'll just show you on a piece of paper. That way you can see for yourself. I mean, I'm here to take questions, so I don't.
Okay.
I'm here to take.
Now you talking about speaking of pieces of paper, I made what I'm saying, because somebody I ain't nobody sitting down with me. It's okay. So I took from the Feast of Trumpets, and I went back. Now I'm thinking I did it wrong. Thinking I did it wrong, because that's what I've been told by my Mowreh, my advisor over here. You know what I'm saying? He said I did it wrong. So
yeah, he's kind of blunt. He get right to the point. That's wrong. Yeah, that's how you do.
So, but what I did was, I went back. Now I would not. Now I'm gonna admit though, I was wrong with the year. I thought that I went to a Passover. I can remember a year. I was over Lena. I was over Lena. It was the Passover. She invited me over. And I was drinking.
But you don't have to tell us the details. Just give us the question.
Know, right? Okay, right. You're right. But I didn't know it was Passover, because I was going for the Passover. So I was having leaven. I was doing my leaven thing, and I didn't know. So I can remember that year real good. I can remember like, oh man, I ain't supposed to be having leaven. It's Passover. Oh man, because I thought I was going with the other. You know what I'm saying? So that's why right now what I'm doing is. I went back. I took 2017, 2016, 2015, and then 14, 13, to 12. And I went back to see if it lined up, because it's 30 days and it's 12 months. And he just kind of he didn't want to sit down with me. He didn't want to sit down with me. So I had to do it myself. And I don't feel like. I don't feel like it matched up when I was over at that party. You know what I'm saying? I just don't feel like.
Well, let me answer your question, because I'm on
30 days and 12 months.
Because you didn't ask me a question, but I'm just trying to gather the question out of what you say.
Okay. Can I answer straightforward?
Well, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
straightforward. If I wanted to do some checking of the calendar, only thing I have to do is count 30 days and then in 12 months, and I can go all the way back and check when we're supposed to have a Passover years back, or when we're supposed to have a Day of Atonement years back if I wanted to.
Yes, you can. Okay. And this is the thing though that I want you to see and understand. See, if you try to count using a Gregorian calendar and just a Gregorian calendar, then you're always going to be wrong. You can't just count 30 days on their calendar, because they had 31 days in their calendar. They also had 28 days in their months. They also had 29 days in their month. So you're using something that's already flawed. So in other words, if I take, the Almighty said in the book of Genesis, from the second month, the 17th day of the month, you're familiar with that, right? To the 7th month, to the 17th day of the month, how many days should you come up with? 150 days. But if you do that on the Gregorian calendar, you're not going to come up with 150 days.
Now, of course, when you talk about going back, our people do use this. They look on their phone and they doing.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying if you just use the Gregorian calendar, I'm saying you're already using something that's already flawed. So you're looking for an answer into something that you already know is flawed before you even get started.
Well, I just wanted, just for understanding purposes, I want something that, you know what I'm saying, because the thing about it, when it comes to this calendar, I can't have no grass on. We all have a grass on the Gregorian calendar.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to go back in
Now,
time,
I don't think you have a grass on the Gregorian calendar like you think, but however, what I'm saying is this, that we can do I'm saying what you're saying can be done. You can just count backwards, and I'll show you how to do that. All right, we can do that.
the whole sentences out and all that, like this.
No, you can go ahead and say, get it out.
Okay, I thought you about to get it. All right. So,
Yeah, because the other people got questions. Other people got questions.
I'll be halfway talking. I don't want to disrespect you. He's talking. I can stop talking.
Just ask a direct question.
Direct question. Okay. Well, so if I wanted to know the Passover in 2013, where we were, Gregorian wise, in 2013, where the Passover was, all I had to do was do 30 days and 12 months, and that's what I did. And the conclusion I got was the Passover was May 3rd in 2013 when I went back. And that's what I'm saying. When I did that 30 days, 12 months, it was May 3rd in Gregorian, and I really doubt that was the day that it was. You know what I'm saying?
Your doubts is correct.
Yeah.
Your doubts is correct.
Yeah.
The Passover was not in May.
Yeah, I'm saying.
Period. But see, that's why IshiYAH told you that you were wrong.
Right.
But that's okay.
We need a visual.
You'll have a visual.
Okay.
And we'll show you exactly how you number your days. But I just want you to understand this. You never use as your barometer something that you already know is flawed. See, you already know the Gregorian calendar is flawed. Now, what you probably should have started off with in asking me is, how do I merge, or how do I reconcile the Gregorian calendar with Yahweh's calendar? Yahweh's calendar only had 30 days in it, but not with the Gregorian calendar. Some months is 28 days. Some months are 29 days. Some months are 30 days. And you even know some months is 31 days. So therefore, you're always going to end up, you're not going to match up. You're not going to match up. And if you don't accept that, I just don't know how else to say it. You're not going to match up. But I can show you how we match it up. That's all I can do.
I got one question after that or whatever, but like I said, I went back to, you know what I'm saying, my older messages, and I found out when on the Gregorian calendar was I at that place. That's why, since I already lived that, we already lived all them days, I feel like we can back up and figure out where we at from that parameter over there. But I got one more question though. Let me. That's a question I asked IshiYAH.
Now, when you go back, and that's good that you're going back. Were any of those times 13 months?
No. And I'm doing it like y'all was doing it. That's why I wanted to see where it was going.
I'm saying, was there any 13 months between the time that you went back to? I'm saying not what we going by. I'm saying was from the time you did Passover and you went back to 2012. I don't care if you go backwards or forward. Were there any 13 months, 13 months years?
Oh, I wasn't looking for that. They probably was. You already know the answer. That's why I wasn't using that.
Yeah.
I wasn't using that at all. I didn't even think
but don't say.
See what y'all
so how can you correct what we're doing, and you?
I'm trying to check it.
How can you check it?
Yeah.
And you don't even know if it's 13 months or 12 months, and we've been saying that's all it is, huh?
That's what I'm saying. Ain't no 13 months, so I ain't use it.
Yeah, but if it's 13 months in which you've been counting backwards to, then that's going to throw off any month any year that's 12 months. Just think about that for a minute.
Okay. I did have that last question, but I guess I'm going to use it with everybody else because I've been talking too long.
Everybody understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right.
Shalom, family.
Shalom.
I have a question I want to ask here. It's from another class,
Okay.
and it says, by having every month consisting of 30 days, going by 12 months, every new year would lose 5 days. Is that correct?
Yes, if you go by the Gregorian calendar. See, this is where these days are being lost because everybody is going by the Gregorian calendar that everybody knows is wrong. That's why the Creator said, follow not the ways of the what? The heathen. And so this is what happens. The Gregorian calendar is 365 days, period. And so the Jewish calendar is not 365 days. The Jewish calendar is only 354 days. And that's because the Jewish calendar only and exclusively go by the moon. So they fall by 11 days every year. And so when they get to the third year, they have what you know of as a leap year. And this is where this 13th month come in. So you got 11 here, 11 here. And so by the time they get to the third year, they'll leap a whole month. And so that nobody will see that they don't fell backwards. Now, instead of them keeping the Passover in springtime, in March, they will be keeping the Passover in the winter. So to counteract that, they inserted a 13th month that's not in the scriptures. And that's the Jewish calendar. And they do this every 3 years. But Yah don't have any leap years at all. And if you go by the Gregorian calendar, they are correct. You are going to move backwards. But this is what a lot of people don't consider about the Gregorian calendar. The Gregorian calendar have 365 days in it, correct?
Yeah.
How many weeks is that?
52.
It's 52 weeks plus 1 day. But see, there's impossible for you to just add just 1 day to a calendar. Because once you add 1 day, you also add what? You add the whole week. And this was because y'all don't have no paper calendar. His calendar is functional. These things are in motion every single day, every single week, every single month, and every single year. So when you go by theirs, it'll automatically make you fall backwards. And the reason why I do that, because it's just like they add the New Testament, just like they add other things, they added days to their calendar. And so therefore, you got extra days that's in there that's really, if you look at it, don't even supposed to be there. Like for instance, and should be easy for everybody to understand. Is there a such thing as a 31-day month? Everybody knows there's no 31-day month, but they got it on their calendar. So you automatically know they done added something that don't even exist. Period. Is there a such thing as a 28-day month? Now you already know automatically they done deleted days that just don't exist. It's either is or it's not. And so their whole calendar is just very flawed. And so it's so flawed it becomes fictional because they got months that just really just don't exist. These months are based on the various ruling parties, depending on what time that they ruled and so forth and so on. When they first began keeping their calendar, it began in the springtime. Then all of a sudden somebody else come in. Now it began in the wintertime. And the first month of the heathen's calendar is January. And how many days in that?
31.
And then the month before that, the last month of their calendar is December. And how many days in that?
31.
So you already know you're about to be off. And then the very next month after January, how many months and days in that? 28.
Sometimes 29.
And then sometimes 29, depending on the year. And I know people was born on the 28th. And then they get to 1 year and it just leaps right over their birthday. Well, how you going to leap over somebody's birthday? But these are the things we're going by. And then you get into the summertime, and you seem like, okay, everything seems to be good. And then you get to like May. Then that's a 31-day month. And then you get into other months. Then you get 30-day month, 30, then boom. Next thing you know, 31 days again. And then we're curious and wonder why everybody else's calendar seem to be off. Because the ruling power, the ruling authority, the one that rules the earth dictated time. And so everybody trying to keep up with them. But y'all don't have to keep up with nobody. And no, we don't fall backwards at all. And we can give you what we've been doing, the Passover, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and every holy day should all occur within a week of its time for 7 years. And then it's going to start all over. It's going to start all over. And why? Because each holy day goes through each day. Look, let's show you how simple this is. It's only 7 years according to the scriptures. Only 7 years. According to the scriptures, it's only 7 days. And according to the scriptures, it's only 7 holy days. Which means what? The Passover will happen on each day of the week for 7 years and start right back over. So the Passover is not going to happen twice on the same day for 7 years. And why? Because Yah is about order. He's about order. So if it happened on the 4th day, it's not going to happen like that again for 7 years. And to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that I'm telling y'all the truth, watch this. Go to the book of Leviticus, the 25th chapter. That's why it's only 7 days. It's only 7 years. It's only 7 holy days. And that's something you really shouldn't be, you can get messed up, unless you go by somebody else's words. And watch this. In Leviticus 25. 25. And we're going to read we're going to start reading at the 18th verse. And this is what it says. Wherefore ye shall do my statutes, keep my judgments, and do them. And ye shall dwell in the land in safety. And the land shall yield her fruit. And ye shall eat your field, and dwell therein safely. And if you say, what shall we eat the 7th year? Because we know the 7 years are what? It's a Sabbath. Y'all not going to do no work for nobody. And watch what it says. What shall we eat the 7th year? Behold, we shall not sow nor gather in our increase. Then I will command my blessing upon you in the what?
6 years.
And it shall bring forth for how many years?
3 years.
For 3 years. So how would I know it's the 6th year? What is it, Azariah? How would I know the 6th year? Yeah, in other words, I got 3 times as much fruit on the 6th year than I have any other year. I know the 6th year because it's different than any other year. Now, instead of me going out there for 1 year supply, now I'm going out there for how many supplies?
3 years.
3 years supply. Because this is when Yahweh said he will command his blessing. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom. Stay in here for me. Oh, goodness, they here for me. Why can't, I feel like we ain't nothing in here, boy, I tell you. Yeah, I'm talking about Rebecca too. She loved me. That's my wife. Y'all didn't know that? Rebecca, tell them you my wife. My goodness. Can't you see her man? I know I'm starting somewhere. But see, hey, but look, in the 6th year, we're going to have 3 times as much. So we should never get that confused. And this happened every 6th year. Why? Because Yahweh wanted us to rest in the what? In the 7th year. He wanted us to rest. So he made sure in the 6th year we had 3 times as much. So now if you know the 6th year, then of course our people, they definitely knew the 7th year. How did they know the 7th year? It shows you what our people knew about the 7th year. It's in the book of Deuteronomy 15. There's 2 big reasons why our people would know these years. Well, in particular, the 7th year. And this is Deuteronomy, the 15th chapter. Because these things it's not hard. See, even though we're not in the land and we're not getting 3 times as much fruit today as we did in the land, there's still a way for you to know the 6th year versus any other year. But I'm just showing you an example how you would know and how you can't get this confused unless you want to be confused. And most of our people, they not going by these years. They going by other people. Now watch this. In the book of Deuteronomy 15. This is how you're going to know the 7th year with our people. It says in the first verse, at the end of every 7 years, thou shalt make a release. And this is the manner of the release. Every creditor that lendeth unto his neighbor shall release it. He shall not exact it of his neighbor or of his brother, because it is called YAH'S increase. And I can see you right now, brother, in the future and in the past. When the 7th year come and you owe somebody, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say no. No, but it's the 7th year. This is called YAH'S release. And you don't think our people knew? Yeah, they knew. They knew this was YAH'S release. And so any other year they get wrong, fine. But that 7th year, they're not going to get that wrong. Because that's dealing with what? Their money, their pocket. And not only you supposed to release your debts in the 7th year, and our people waited for this 7th year because they knew they needed this assistance. Yahweh knew they did. That's why he had the 7th year release. Watch in the same chapter in the 12th verse. And if thy brother, a Hebrew man, or a Hebrew woman, because some people think women just work for you forever. But watch what it says. If thy brother, a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman, be sold unto thee, and serve thee 6 years, then in the 7th year thou shalt let him go what? Free. Free. See, there's laws, there's commandments, there's statutes, there's judgments, there's ordinances that we had to execute at this time so that we would know 1 year from the next. See, we knew all these years. And there were certain signs that let us know when these years were. Like I said, in the 6 years, God gave us 3 times as much fruit. And you can't get confused. The only reason our people confused today about that, as well as the 6th day, because they're not doing exactly what Yah told them to do. Do you realize in the 6th day that Yah told our people to do twice as much? Am I correct?
Yes. True.
But when the 6th day comes, they act like it's just like any other day. And they do just enough work to get through that day. And then next thing you know, you're short on the Sabbath day. Now you got to find yourself, man, Dad, I still ain't did this. I still ain't did that. Now I got to do this. Now I got to do that. Well, if you had worked twice as much, then you would have been blessed on the Sabbath day. But since you didn't work twice as much, all you did was mess your blessing up. And now you're really about to mess it up on the Sabbath day. Because now you're about to do something that should have been done the day before. And this is how not only we know our days, but our years. One more scripture. Go to the book of Deuteronomy 26. In the book of Deuteronomy 26, and what we're talking about for those who just come in, we're in a question and answer phase, and we're talking about how we go about determining our days and our years, as well as our months. And we're discussing this versus how we go about dealing with this Gregorian calendar, which have our people really confused. And the confusion is that in the Gregorian calendar, it's meant that if you go by it, you're going to be thrown off. And why? Because they insert days in the months that just don't exist. Like, for instance, 31 days. I mean, any average person who have a little bit of knowledge knows there's not 31 days in a month. Except for those who just don't know anything about a month. So to them, it's normal to have a 31-day month. But to those who've been studying the Creator's Word, we know that just don't exist. A 31-day month? In other words, now you done not only repeat it, but you done went into, you in another month, another time zone, but they got 31 days in just 1 month. And then if that's not confusing, then the very next month, they only had 28 days in that month. And now you get really confused. And then you wonder why, okay, all these things are thrown out. But watch this, Deuteronomy 26, the 12th verse. And this is what it says. When thou hast made an end of tithing, all the tithes of thy increase the third year. Why? Because the third year is an actual year. There's only 7 differences. Which is the year of tithing, and has given it unto the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, the widow, that they may eat within thy gates and be filled. Then thou shalt say before Yah thy Elohim, I brought away the holy things out of my house, and also have given them unto the Levite, unto the stranger, to the fatherless, to the widow, according to all thy commandments which thou hast commanded me. I have not transgressed thy commandments, neither have I forgotten you. I have not eaten thereof in my mourning, neither have I taken away aught thereof for any unclean use, nor given aught thereof for the dead, but I have hearkened to the voice of Yah thy Elohim, and have done according to all thou hast commanded me. And what did he command us? He told us to give him the 10th. That's all the word tithe means. It just means 10th. And you give him a 10th. But in the third year, what our people would do, instead of taking every year, going to Jerusalem, and they didn't even get that to Yah, they ate. The very 10th that they put aside for Yah, Yah said, look here, enjoy it. Enjoy it. Every year, that's what he said, except for the third year. The third year, he said, now take that. Instead of you enjoying it, I want this to be for the widow, the fatherless, the Levite, and the stranger that is within your cities. I want you to leave it for them. And we did this every third year. And the third year came every 7 years. The 6th year came every 7 years. The 7th year came every 7 years. So the land rested in the 7th year. And the land didn't rest again until we got back to the 7th year. And then the land didn't rest again until the 7th year. And we did this 7 different times where it became 49 years. And you know what happened after the 49 years? And that was the what? Year 1 again. In other words, we just start this cycle all over again. Because Yah's cycles are always in 7. It's in 7. And this is how we kept everything in order. Every holy day is only 7. Every holy day will happen on a different day of the week for 7 years. For 7 years. You'll never have a holy day happen on the first day twice, as in the Jewish calendar or as in the Gregorian calendar. They will all have their day. And then I'll take more questions. And you can do this one thing for me. And watch this. The very first Sabbath, in the book of Genesis, it happened how many days after the very first month? Yes, you. Yes. All right, when were the months made? What day were they made? What years? When were the years made? Then you check another. My goodness.
I usually don't go to matters like this. I usually
okay, now I understand. But I'm asking you something. When did Yahweh make the lights of heaven? Yeah, what? Yeah.
I know that, but
that's what I'm asking you.
I feel like I'm gonna get it once I
No, you don't be scared to get it. Okay. I mean, what? Yes, on the fourth day. And then the Sabbath day came how many days later? 3 days later, right? So the first Sabbath came 3 days after the very first season, after the very first month, the very first year. It was the third day of that month, that year, right? But just assume I'm telling you the truth right now. And then you can go back and fact check me. All right? Like CNN, just fact check me afterwards. But let's just say I'm telling you the truth. All right? And that first Sabbath was the third day of that month. And I just want to see how fast you think real quick. So the very next Sabbath will be the what?
Okay, wait, so the third day, the next Sabbath will be 10th, right?
Yeah, and then the next one will be what?
17th day.
And the next one what?
24th day.
And then the next one what?
31st day.
Now you see what I mean? In other words, there is no 31 days. So what would it be? Well, I understand. Well, see, the very next one will be the first, and then the next one the 8th, then the 15th, then the 22nd, then the 29th, and then in the third one it will be the 6th, the 13th, the 20th, the 22nd, and then the very next one will be the 4th, the 11th, the 18th, the 25th. And go so on and on. And you know what you'll find? Every Sabbath throughout the year, that every day will find its Sabbath. And then, as soon as you get to the 30th day, which will be in the 7th month, because that's where it's going to end, you know what'll happen? The count will start all over again. Because there's only 30 days in every month. And so each day, and y'all do it for yourselves. All you have to do is take one day of the week and mark that day. And then 7 days later, see when that day is going to come back. And then keep marking 7 days, 7 days, 7 days. And as soon as you get to 30, it's going to start all over again. Because it's only 30 days. He has the mic, and I think the lady's got a question. Shabbat Shalom.
I thought you were going to go there when you were talking about the what the day was the light created on the fourth day.
Mm-hmm.
Could you please talk about how we've got 30 days in every month, but then we've got also that 7 days in every week, and how that first 4 days of creation help pull out the week, and so then it's and everything stays on track.
Thank you. Hallelujah. And the main thing is this. See, in the Gregorian calendar, and I'm just keep using the Gregorian calendar because that's what the world uses. See, the Jewish calendar is way shorter than the Gregorian calendar because they only exclusively go by the moon. And so, but the Gregorian calendar has 365 days in it. And when our months and our years began, they began on the 4th day of the week. So there's 3 days that most of these calendars don't even account for. They don't even account for. And when we account for these days, this is how we have 52 weeks. 52 times 7 is 364 days. And so really, technically speaking, the reason why we know we're not going to be, we're never off like some people say we are, is because we only have a 1-day difference from the Gregorian calendar. It's 365 days in their calendar, and it's 364 when you include all our weeks. And you have to include our weeks because the sun, moon, and the stars started on the 4th day. So you just can't ignore the days before it. You can't ignore it. And most people ignore it. And they ignore it because they only exclusively go by the moon. Now, this is the problem with the book of Jubilees and the book of Enoch. The book of Enoch, they'll recognize that. And they had 364 days in their calendar. But then, every day and every holy day will all happen on the same day. And nothing will change for 364 days. And then it'll just go back and go back and go back. And then, even though they keep doing this, they still have leap years. They still have leap years. But nothing happened on the same day. If Yahweh wanted everything to happen on the same day, then he wouldn't have made 7 different days. And he made 7 different days. So he didn't want the Passover to just be on the 4th day every year and every time. No, that's not what Yahweh wanted. Each day means something. Each day represents something. And every day represents something that Yahweh wanted you to know and he wanted you to execute and do. So, for instance, on the 4th day, when Yah made, on the 4th day, when Yah made the lights of heaven, this is what the Creator said when he made the lights of heaven in the book of Psalms 113. And we know he made it on the 4th day. Psalms 113. In the book of Psalms 113, and I'm going to just read the first 3 verses, and this is what it says. Praise ye Yah. Praise, O ye servants of Yah. Praise the name of Yah. Blessed be the name of Yah from this time and forevermore. And watch what it says in the 3rd verse. From the rising of the sun unto the going down of the same, Yah's name is to be what? Praise. And why? Because that's when he made the lights. And why? Because the 4th represents his praise. And to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that the 4th represents his praise, go to the book of Leviticus 19. And this is the law. And so when the Almighty began certain things, such as the years, such as the months, such as the days of the month and the days of the year, he wanted his praise. And throughout, and Yah getting his praise more than you know he getting his praise. Because he said his praise he will not give to what? Another. Watch what he said in the 23rd and 24th verse. And we shall come into, and when ye come into the land, and shall have planted all manner of trees for food, then ye shall count the fruit thereof as uncircumcised. 3 years shall it be uncircumcised unto you. it shall not be eaten of. But in the 4th year, all the fruit thereof shall be holy to do what? Why? Because the 4th represents his praise. That's why it was done in the 4th year. The first 3 years, uncircumcised. Then all of a sudden, the 4th year, we can bring this fruit to Yahweh, and now we can bring it to do what? And then after the 4th year, we take the 5th year and we can do what? Watch the very next verse, the 25th verse. And in the 5th year shall ye eat the fruit thereof, that it may yield unto you its increase thereof. I am Yah your Elohim. Because the 4th represents his praise. That's why he said from the rising of the sun until the going of the same, Yah's name is to be what? Praise. Is to be praised. It represents his praise. And everything dealing with the 4th represents his praise. Just one more scripture to show y'all on how this represents his praise and how Yahweh will order things. Go to the book of Genesis. Genesis, the 29th chapter. So you can take it to the bank every time you get to the 4th, whether it's the 4th day, whether it's the 4th year, whether it's the 4th month, and I can show you throughout all the scriptures, he want his praise. But then you get to the 2nd day, or the 2nd month, or the 2nd year. It's about his name. And he's going to show you that it's about his name. Because each day, each month, each year, they all represent something that Yah wanted done and executed. And watch what he said about this in Genesis 29. And this is about Leah. 31st verse. And when Yah saw that Leah was hated, he opened up her womb, but Rachel was barren. And Leah conceived and bare a son, and she called his name Reuben. For she said, surely Yah hath looked upon my affliction. Now therefore my husband will love me. And this is her firstborn son. And that's what Reuben actually means, Yah hath looked upon me. He looked upon my affliction, rather. And watch this, the 2nd son. And she conceived again and bare a son. And said, because Yah hath heard that I was hated, he hath therefore given me this son also. And she called his name Simeon. And the name Simeon actually comes from the Hebrew word Shema, which we say every week, Shema YIsraEL. And the word Shema actually means to hear. It means to hear. And why does it mean that? Watch what she said about Simeon. Again, she said about Simeon in the 3rd verse, and she conceived again, bare a son, and said, because Yah have what? Heard that I was hated. So she called his name what? Simeon. Because Simeon means to hear. It means Yahweh have heard me. That's what it means. Now watch the 3rd son in the 34th verse. And she conceived again and bare a son and said, now this time will my husband be attached or joined unto me, because I bore him 3 sons. Therefore was his name called what? Levi. And that's what Levi means. Matter of fact, who do you think married people? Levi. Who do you think bring man and woman together? Who do you think bring man to Yahweh? Levi. Who do you think teach the people about Yahweh and join you unto Yahweh? Levi. Because that's what his name means. That's what he represents. That's what he was made and designed for, to join us to Yah. He is Yahweh's messenger and representative in the earth. And when did he make the earth? The 3rd day. And when was Levi born? He was the 3rd son. Now watch the 4th son in the 35th verse. And she conceived again and bare a son, and she said, now I will what? Therefore she called his name Yehudah and left barren. Because Yehudah represents Yahweh's praise. Why you think the temple is built and when it was built? Y'all know when the temple was built? The 4th year. Why? Because it was built for his praise. And you know what? Out of all the tribes, Yahweh will put his name in. You know where he put his name at? Yehudah. Why? Because Yehudah represents his praise. Not because he's special, not because he was better than anybody. He just happened to be born at the right time. And that was what? 4. And that is the time that we're supposed to praise Yah with our fruits. And that is the tribe that, according to the book of Genesis, the 49th chapter, if y'all know that, this last one on that. Watch this in Genesis 49. So it makes sense that Yahweh was saying the 4 from the sun and the moon and the stars, because they all was made on that day. So he said from the rising of the sun and to the going down of the same, Yah's name is to be what? Praised. Because once he put those luminaries up in the sky, all you can do is praise Yah. Like, my goodness, praise Yah. You know, because this brought glory to the heavens. And watch what the Creator said in Genesis 49, verse 8. And this is what it says. Yehudah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall what? Praise. Yeah, and they are. Why you think in the last days the Almighty said he's going to save Yehudah from the 4 corners of the what? Because Yahweh is going to get his praise. He's going to get his praise. This deliverance is not, it's going to be like no other. Because Yehudah is scattered all over the world. Whereas some of the tribes, they just on the continent of Africa. But not so with Yehudah. They all over. And so the deliverance of Yehudah has to be real great, different, diverse from everybody else. And who did Yahweh say he was going to save first? Yehudah. And why? Because that's who Yahweh said the brethren going to praise. And not only he's going to be saved first, but when was the years and the days and the months actually began? On the 4th. Because all this represents Yah's praise. This is why Yah told our people, you put fringes on the border of your garments and tie upon them a ribbon of blue. And how many corners you're supposed to have? Because Yahweh wants his praise. And this is how he get it. No matter what we do, Yahweh going to get his praise. And I'm saying to you, my brother, that all this means one thing and one thing only. That every day, every month, every year has its purpose and its meaning. And it's only 7 different ones. And after the 7th, it just repeats. Even though you might be saying 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 49, Yahweh still see it as what? 7. Because you're going to do the same exact thing that you would do in 7. And that's how he see it. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. I know you. We got to sit down with you, man.
I've never been like, I ask questions.
Any other questions? Because we only have a certain amount of time, so we just want to get them in.
Praise God.
Hallelujah.
Hello, y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I know you're speaking on Gregorian, and usually when people talk about the Gregorian, of course, we say, well, what was the day of atonement last year? We're going to have to translate it into Gregorian. I mean, even though I know it's messed up and everything, but usually, even this year, when we say when Passover is coming up, we're going to say, well, it's the first, this is the 14th day of the first month, but we don't have to, for everybody to get together, we'll say, well, that's actually going to translate it Gregorian for everybody. Oh, okay. So that's what I was, what I'm saying.
And we understand that. Yeah, we understand that. Yeah.
And also, I really feel like, and that's why I did this. I feel like it'd be like trusting in man if I was just to say, I'm gonna let y'all tell me. I want to make my own calendar so I can look back and look forward and everything. That's why I want a calendar from years. Like the calendar you'll have, I want it from 2013 to now. I want the 30 days. I want the 12 months. I think you said the 4 more days. I want to know where when you insert them at. For the 30 days, 12 months.
Let me just
insert. I want that for myself. I don't want nobody to tell me.
And you can get it. And let me insert that. And you can get it for yourself.
Okay.
This is where oftentimes people go wrong. All right. I just, because you said a lot. I'm saying this is the first thing. If you don't know nothing else, this is the question or the reason why I'm here. See, the Almighty, He only gave His word to one people and one people only, and that's Israel. He only dealt with only one people, and that's Israel. And He only know one people, and that is Israel. And so everything that Yahweh has done, will do, and is doing is through Israel. And so what we have to do as Israelites is get together. I'm no Lone Ranger where I'm just coming up with stuff and writing stuff and trying to. No, that's not the truth. Everything that first of all, I put what I believe and teach in writing. So you can check it out. That's number one. And number two, before I even taught anything, I took it to my leaders and my elders, the people that I know who study the scriptures. And I pass it out for them to do exactly what you're saying you want to do. And that's to fact check everything. And so this is what we have to do. But there are certain simple truths that if you don't adhere to, then you will never get to the point in the season that you're trying to get to. So if you just ignore that the scriptures only talk about 12 months, if you ignore that, then you're never going to get to the season that you want to. Because you're looking for something that's not, or going by something that's not there. And then if you go by the days of the month, I'm saying, then you go by what the scriptures are saying. The scriptures say every word of Elohim is pure. And He is a shield unto them that put their trust in Him. Add thou not unto His words, lest He reprove thee, and thou be found a liar. So we have to have a starting place. So what you should be saying to me, and I'm saying this is what I be saying to you. This is what I will be saying to you. Okay, I can see that it's 30 days a month. I can see that it's 12 months a year. I can see that everything started, or the months and the years, and they started on the 4th. So how do we get, and I can even see that it's 7 Sabbaths of years that we're supposed to be counting. Now, I want to see how you came up with this to make it true.
That's what I asked.
And I'm just trying to, and that's what I'm saying. And so in other words, and then let me tell you, if you ask me that, then you know what I would do? I will go through the various dates in the scriptures, and I'll say, go to the book of Exodus 16. And then I'll show you a date that Yahweh gave, and I'll show you that date is consistent with everything that I'm saying. And then I will show you in the book of 1 Kings, the 6th chapter, the 1st verse, where it says 480 years our people came out of Egypt in the 4th year of Solomon that they built the temple in the 2nd month. And I'll show you how they got it. And I'll show you in the book of Exodus, the 12th chapter, where it says our people sojourned in Egypt 430 years. And I'll show you when they went in, and I'll show you when they went out, and it was 430 years, exactly like Yahweh said. That's what I will show you. To show you that I'm telling you the truth. And I'll show you can't use no Gregorian calendar, and you can't use these other calendars that's not mentioned in the scriptures. Now to get that, you had to study, you had to sit down. And I put all this in writing so you can see for your own self. And you don't need me to see that. Oh, you see this? Read that line right there. No, you don't need that because this is simple. This is not rocket science. This is not hard at all. Yah said his word is plain unto them that understand it. It's plain. And so we should be able to see. But as long as you still got this other stuff in your cup, the Gregorian calendar, because you lead off, keep saying, when I go back on the Gregorian calendar, and we all got to use the Gregorian calendar, and see, this is what I want you to say. Well, let's find the truth first. Let's find the truth. Now that we know the truth, now we can see how the Gregorian calendar fits it versus how we're supposed to fit the Gregorian calendar. We don't go and see how JC fit into our scheme or how he don't fit into our scheme. We look for the truth. And if JC don't fit, we're not inserting at all. So if a 31 day don't fit, then why are we using a 31 day? Why are we using it? If a 28 day don't fit, then why are we using that? And so this is my point. So it's things that we can sit down and talk about, but those simple truths you have to accept. Yes, sir.
Now, I remember I did look on the website, and I seen the calendar on there, and I seen that, but okay, for instance, I went on YouTube and I typed in Passover, but they didn't have the Passover. They had the 7th day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread on the YouTube this year. And I seen the date on that, and I went back 30 days, and it was on the same. It was on the day. It was on the mark when I went back this year to the last day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So that's the same thing I did. You know what I'm saying? When it came to going all the way back to 2013 and seeing May 3rd. But I also want to say when when it came to Passover, and that's what I did. I kept going, and like I said, I mean, I can go.
See, in other words, I don't doubt what you. Yeah. Let me say this too on that. And listen, because see, this is not a marathon at all. We here. We in jail, so we ain't going nowhere, right? We in jail, so we can talk about this. But just on your point, I'm saying you can tell me that you did whatever. And I'm saying until you and I sit down together, whatever you did, I don't know. So you can explain it all day long. I still don't know. And I know you don't know what I did. Because just listening to you, you don't know what I did. And so, but once you and I sit down together, then we have a meeting of the minds. And that's what Yah want us to know. So whatever you did to prove to me what you did, I just don't know. I don't know. So let's sit down and let's see what you did. And I'll show you what I did. All right?
Brother, I have a question.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I'd like to give all honor and glory to Yahweh by saying hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Praise the mighty Yah.
Praise the mighty Yah.
Yah's righteous.
Yah's righteous.
Holy.
Yah's
Let
holy.
Yahweh be magnified.
Let Yahweh be magnified.
Mowreh, I wanted to ask you Deuteronomy 25 and 19. I want to know, did Yahweh ever, is there any other places in the scriptures where it says, do not forget or shall not forget?
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a lot of different places. And do you want me to give you the number now?
No, you can get. I just wanted to know.
No, it is.
How many?
It is.
How many times?
It is real important. And I'm still counting. And the reason why sometimes it takes me a minute to get to certain questions like Hashum, because, for instance, you might see in the scriptures where in the scriptures it says, I know you remember this, don't you? You was there when he was there. Look, there might be in the scriptures where it says to remember a certain amount of time, right? And so when I go through the scriptures, then I see that word remember, it's a lot of time. But what Hashum is asking is, he's asking about where Yahweh said to remember. And so I have to deduct that from when Yahweh said it. And likewise, when Yahweh said, look, don't forget, because some things he tell you to remember, and then certain things he tells you not to forget. And so there are certain things. So I'm going through that deduction right now.
Okay.
Because both words are very important, because that's like somebody saying to you, Minister, yeah, man, don't forget, man. Man, please don't forget. Don't forget that, man, please. I really need that. Don't forget. And then somebody might say, Minister, yeah, can you remember? And there's two different receptions. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Let me give you a quick example of that real quick. And I want us to consider this. I'm not sure if you're talking about the days, but according to the question you just asked, is there any other spots where he says don't forget? Well, when we generally get together, we generally eat, right?
That's correct.
And somebody generally bless the food.
That's
right?
correct.
Before we eat, right?
Yes.
Well, Yah told us to bless him after we done ate and get full, and then after, you know what he say? Don't forget.
That's right.
So
That's
it
right.
must be a reason behind it, because he said, this is the order, I want you to do it, and don't forget.
You're absolutely correct. And you read that in the book of Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter. You'll read that. And that's a perfect example. Or you'll read in the book of Jeremiah, he say, remember the old path, wherein the good way what? Was. And walk therein, and it shall be rest for your soul. He said, remember the Sabbath day to keep it what? Oh. And so there's times he said, don't forget. And he said, don't forget what I did to Miriam. And so, you know, so those questions are very important, and I promise to have that for you. I promise. Yes, sir.
And this, I was waiting on someone to send it by way of the internet, but when you're dealing with the Israelite community, this one thing that most of the Israelite community go by to determine a new month, and that definitely is the new moon.
Right.
And when we looking for the new moon, we've been all looking for the first crescent of light.
That's correct.
And then when you look up the word for month, it's going to take you to Kodesh, and it's going to take you to definitions that it gives.
Correct.
Which means to renew. When you're dealing with a new moon, to rebuild, repair. So in saying that and looking for a new month, because it's been said that month and moon is synonymous with one another. So when you're looking for a new month to start, you're looking for a new moon. Something that's rebuilding, something that's repairing itself. And we've been all going by the first crescent of light. That's what they've all been looking for. So are we to go by that definition that the concordance gives in dealing with a new moon and going by that crescent of light?
Well, no, that's very good. That's an excellent question, because as the Mowreh was saying, what is commonly told is that you'll see the word Kodesh, which means to renew, rebuild. But then they'll insert one more word in there, and it's the word moon. And so this is why oftentimes a lot of people will assume that we must go by the moon, because when I look up the word Kodesh in the concordance, it has the word moon. And this is what you go by. You always go by the scriptures, because I'll show you many places where the concordance will contradict the scriptures. So, for instance, let me show you a scripture about the new moon or Kodesh. See, our enemies are real what's the word? Cunning and sagacious. So, for instance, they real crafty. That's the word right there, crafty. Yeah, they real crafty. So, for instance, you might read this in the book of Numbers, the 3rd chapter. Go there. And that's an excellent question. And I can say, even before I read this to you, you go by renew. Because each month is renewed. And you have to know, but if you don't know what a month is, then you might be looking at the wrong thing. Watch this in the book of Numbers, the 3rd chapter. In the book of Numbers, the 3rd chapter, this is what it says in the 40th verse. Numbers 4. I'm sorry, Numbers 3 and 4. Numbers 3 and 4. This is what it says. It says in the book of Numbers 3 and 4, and Yah said unto Moshe, number all the firstborn of the males of the children of Israel from a Kodesh old and upward, and take the number of their names. You notice I said Kodesh, right? Because this is the Hebrew word for month. Now, when it says a Kodesh, again, Kodesh, old, and upward, was Yahweh telling you to look at the crescent light to determine, because it used the word Kodesh. And it's going to use the same exact word, but watch how it reads when you use the same exact word. In other words, nobody that I know ever look at the crescent to determine how old they are. Nobody. Even though this Hebrew word supposed to mean the crescent light, because it means Kodesh, which means to renew, to moon, or rebirth. The same definitions he gave, that word means when you're supposed to number your children. Although nobody do it. The only time our people deal with a crescent is with Yahweh, with the holy days. And then soon as the holy days are over, they don't even deal with the moon when it comes to their children, or when it comes to anything else in their life, except for the holy days. And why is that? I thought we're supposed to number everything the same way. Here it's telling us to number everything by Kodesh. So why we ain't doing it? And then it specifically tells you to number your children by Kodesh. So if we're supposed to use the moon for everything else, surely we're supposed to use it for this. But watch this. Go to the book of Ezekiel. And it's going to use the same exact word. Ezekiel 46. And this scripture, even though it uses the same exact word, I'm going to prove to you beyond a shadow of doubt, is not what you've been taught. And let me ask y'all this, right before we read this. According to traditions and popular belief, the crescent light always comes at what time of the day? Evening. It comes at evening. And I think everybody consistently agree with that. It comes at evening. Now watch this. Thus is Yah Elohim. Ezekiel 46 and 1. Thus is Yah Elohim. The gate of the inner court that looketh toward the east shall be shut 6 working days. But on the Sabbath it shall be open, and in the day of the new moon it shall be what? The only way we're going to know the day of the new moon, we got to know the what? We got to see the what? We got to see the crescent according to popular belief. We got to know when that crescent is. Now, according to what we're saying, is that the new moon comes in the evening, right? And this is what it says. Now, mind you, this same Hebrew word is Kodesh. As we read, they translated month one place, and they translated new moon here. Second verse. But in the new moon, it's going to be open, and the Sabbath is going to be open. And the prince shall enter by the way of the porch of that gate without, and shall stand by the post of the gate. And the priest shall prepare his burnt offering and his peace offering. And he shall worship at the threshold of the gate. Then he shall go forth. But the gate shall not be shut until the what? Likewise, the people of the land shall worship at the door of this gate before Yahweh in the Sabbaths and in the what? Well, how can we worship before Yahweh in the new moons when the new moons come at evening, but the gate's supposed to be shut when? In the evening. So something got to be wrong. Either this don't mean the new moon, or it does mean the new moon. And the new moon comes in the evening. But the gate's supposed to be shut in the what? But we're supposed to worship Yah in the what? New moons. And we can't have it both ways. And let me tell you what way it is. Because not only Yahweh didn't want the gates are shut in the evening. Why? Because the day in the evening. And let me show you what Yahweh is going to do even in the future. To let you know that he didn't want you doing this in the evening. In the same chapter in Ezekiel 46, this is what Yah said about his offerings in the 13th verse. And everybody should know by now that we're supposed to have 2 offerings a day. Is that correct? And when are the offerings? One in the morning and the other one in the evening. And watch what it says about this in the 13th verse. Thou shalt daily prepare a burnt offering to Yah of a lamb of the first year without blemish. Thou shalt prepare it every what? Morning. And thou shalt prepare a meal offering for it every morning. And the 6th part of an ephah, and the 3rd part of a hin of oil, to temper with the fine flour, a meal offering continually by a perpetual ordinance unto Yah. Thus shall they prepare the lamb, and the meal offering, and the oil, every morning for a continual burnt offering. Well, you notice you didn't read about something. And what didn't you read about? The evening offering. And you know why? Because there is, at this time, it won't be an evening offering. As a matter of fact, at this time, it won't even be an evening. Because Yahweh said, your moon and sun won't even go down no more. So what you looking for evening for? In other words, the light is always going to be before you. So there is no, even though there's always going to be a what? A morning. And we'll be able to tell the difference between the morning and the end of the day, even though your days will never end. And the only offering that Yahweh wanted was a morning offering and not an evening. And why? Because what do evening represent? It represents the end of a day. It represents the end of everything. In other words, now you're going into what? Darkness. And darkness represents death. A lot of people don't know that, but it represents death. Why do you think Yahweh say the day of Yah shall be a dark and dreadful day? Because Yahweh coming to kill. He's coming to kill. Why do you think when Yahweh came down on Mount Sinai, he came down on Mount Sinai, and you know what our people seen in the sky? Yeah, nothing. Thick darkness. And why? Because Yahweh didn't want you seeing no sun, moon, and stars. He didn't want you to see nothing but who? Him. He didn't want you to see no bird flying past. He didn't want you to look down in the ocean and see water. He wants your eyes totally on him. And so every time he will show himself, he will show himself in clouds or in thick darkness. And he will block out everything because he know our people. As soon as we see something, it could be just a little bug climbing up the mountain. We will swear that it was that bug that came down, and that must be the Most High. And next thing you know, we have little bug pictures, bugs hanging on our little chains, because that's what we see. And Yahweh said, and speaking of what you said and what Hashum asked, he said, and watch this in Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter. And what I'm telling you, at the time that you're going to be looking for a moon, it won't even be there to look for. Because there won't be an evening. It won't even be an evening. And as a matter of fact, Yahweh said the doors are going to be shut at evening. It's going to be shut. So if the doors are shut, then how can you go in the new moon when the doors are shut at the time it's supposed to come? He said the new moon is going to be open, and in the Sabbath it's going to be what? Open. And Yahweh don't lie. It says in the book of Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter, and I'll just show one more scripture after that. In the book of Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter, this is what it says. The 12th verse, this is what it says. I'll start at the 11th verse. Well, let me start at the 10th verse, because this is something that, again, we as a people don't tremble at. Watch this. So you'll know what this is saying. The 9th verse. It says, only take heed to thyself, and keep thy soul diligently, lest thou what, Hashum? Forget the things which thy eyes have seen, lest they depart from thy heart all the days of thy life. But teach them thy sons and thy sons' sons. And watch what he says. Especially the day that thou stoodest before Yah, thy Elohim in Horeb, when Yah said unto me, gather me the people together, and I will make them hear my words, that they may learn to fear me all the days that they shall live upon the earth, and that they may teach their children. Our people don't know what that day is that Yah came down on Mount Sinai, but Yahweh told us that day. He told us that day. He told us that month. And he told us that year. And we don't never supposed to forget it. And watch what he says. And ye came near and stood under the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire unto the midst of heaven, with darkness, clouds, and thick darkness. And Yahweh spake unto you out of the midst of the fire. Ye heard the voice of the words, but saw no similitude. Only ye heard a voice. And he declared unto you his covenant, which he commanded you to perform, even 10 commandments. And he wrote them upon 2 tables of stone. So here the Almighty didn't want us to see nothing but him. And that's why he came in thick darkness. That's why everything, we could turn all the way around, and all we seen was darkness, thick darkness, and smoke, and fire. That's all we seen. And that's all Yah wanted us to see. And he didn't want us to forget. And what did he want us to forget? That we see no manner of similitude. So there is nobody humanly, possibly, can exist to say they seen something other than Yah. Because you didn't even see him. You didn't even see him. So all we can do is worship Yah and nothing else. All we can do is worship his great name and nothing else. And what is his name? He's the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Abraham, Yitzhak, and YIsraEL. That's his name. That's his memorial for how long? Forever. And we can go in and show that it's Yah, and we can go in and show that it's the Most High or the Almighty, and you can use all those things. But then you come with these other funny names. We know Yahweh, that ain't what he told us to memorialize. And just this last scripture, speaking about the months, in the book of Numbers, the 28th chapter. Because not only we had an offering for every day, we had an offering for every Sabbath. And then you got people saying, look, the reason why I don't keep the Day of Atonement is because on the Day of Atonement, nobody's making that offering. Nobody's making that sacrifice. Well, who's making a sacrifice on the Sabbath day? Because there was an offering and sacrifice every Sabbath. Every Sabbath. And who's making the offering and the sacrifice for every month? Nobody. And matter of fact, who's making it every day? And it was 2 a day. In the book of Numbers 28. And this is how you could tell the difference between a month and anything before a month or anything after a month. Watch what it says in Numbers 28. I'll start at the 9th verse so you can understand what this is saying. It says, on the Sabbath day, 2 lambs of the first year without spot, and 2 tenth deals of flour for a meal offering, mingled with oil, and the drink offering thereof. This is the burnt offering of every what? Sabbath, besides the continual burnt offering and the drink offering. Now watch what it says in the beginning of your months. And in the beginning of your months, you shall offer a burnt offering unto Yah, 2 young bullocks and 1 ram, 7 lambs of the first year without spot, 3 tenth deals of flour for a meal offering mingled with oil for 1 bullock, 2 tenth deals of flour for a meal offering mingled with oil for 1 ram, and a several tenth deal of flour mingled with oil for a meal offering unto 1 lamb, for a burnt offering of a sweet Savior, a sacrifice made by fire unto Yah. And their drink offering shall be half a hin of wine unto a bullock, and a 1/3 part of a hin unto a ram, and a 1/4 part of a hin unto a lamb. This is the burnt offering of every month throughout the months of the year. And 1 kid of goats for a sin offering unto Yah shall be offered, besides the continual burnt offering and his drink offering. Now, one thing you got to know about the beginning of your month. We had no sacrifices like this at night. And the moon is a light by night. The crescent came in the evening when the night was coming in. So they weren't making this offering then. This was the beginning of your months. And the beginning of your months is the same as the beginning of your days. It's in the morning, not at night, not at evening, because evening only represents the end. And to show you this month was truly the day of the month, the new month day, in which people call the new moon. Watch in the same chapter, well, the first verse of the 29th chapter, because I want you to see the difference between this month and the beginning of another month. And this was the offering of every month. This is what it says. Numbers 29:1. And in the 7th month, on the first day of the month, ye shall have a holy convocation. Ye shall do no soever work. It is a day of blowing the trumpets unto Yahweh. And ye shall offer a burnt offering for a sweet Savior unto Yahweh. 1 young bullock, 1 ram, and 7 lambs of the first year without blemish. Now, is that the same offering that Yahweh told you to do in the beginning of your month? No, it's not the same offering. Because the first day of the month is different than the day of the month. They're totally different. Look at this offering on the first day of the month. It says, and the mule offering shall be a flour mingled with oil, 3/10 deal for a bullock, and 2/10 deals for a ram, and 1/10 deal for one lamb throughout the 7 lambs, and 1 kid of goats for a sin offering to make an atonement for you. And watch what it says. Besides the burnt offering of the month, and his meal offering, and the daily offering, and his meal offering, and the drink offering, according unto the manner for a sweet savor, a sacrifice made by fire unto Yah. Now, if you look at the offering for the beginning of the months, which we read in Numbers 28 and 11, it says, in the beginning of your month, ye shall offer a burnt offering to Yahweh, 2 young bullocks, 1 ram, 7 lambs of the first year without spot. Now read the first day of the month offering, which is in the second verse, and you'll see the difference. And ye shall offer a burnt offering for sweet savor unto Yah, 1 young bullock, 1 ram, and 7 lambs of the first year without what? So how many we do in the beginning of your months? 2 young bullocks. But how many we supposed to do in the first day of the month, 7 months? 1 young bullock. And Yahweh is not the author of confusion, because these are 2 different days altogether. The first day of the first month is totally different between the day of the month. And what is the difference? The day of the month, that is when Yahweh made the months. So you think Yahweh is going to allow you to ignore the day that he actually made the sun, moon, and stars on the 4th day? That is the day that Yahweh said you're supposed to do what? Praise him. Give him his praise. But because we know the moon don't come on a certain day, or in the daytime, or in the morning time, we just skip over the day, and we say, well, we just keep the day after the new moon. But the day after the new moon is called the first day of the month. That's what it's called. Because it's the day after. The new moon come at night, and then the very next day, then you have the what day? The first day. That's how you count it. But what do you call it? And I asked the teachers this. What do you call it when it came on that day? What do you call the moon when it comes on that day, the 4th day? What is it called? What you mean what it's called? Yeah, the day that it came, the day that he made it. What do you call it? I don't understand what you mean what he called it. You know what it's called the day after. But I'm asking, what do you call it on the day that it was made? Well, let me tell you what it's called. The day of the new month. That's what Yahweh called it. And there's a difference between the day that he made something and the first day of it. Because this is how we count. For instance, the day that you born is the day that you was born. That's your birthday. And then the very next day, you a day old. And that's how you count. So the day that the moon came, the day that the sun came, the day that the stars was made was on the 4th day. That's the day that they was born. And then the very next day, okay, now this is day 1, which was the 5th day of the week. And then now on the 6th day, it was the 2nd day. And now on the Sabbath day, now it's the 3rd day, 3 days later. And this is how one counts. And this is how we actually do it. This is how even those who follow the moon is actually doing it. The only difference is they don't recognize the day that it comes on. And the reason why is because they think they know that moon come at night or in the evening. So they don't even recognize that day. And Yahweh saying, look, I already told you when it comes. I pre-told you when it comes. You're not like everybody else where you have to follow something, you have to look and see. So for instance, to keep the holy days, to start anything, what our people do is they will look for the moon and they cannot move or do anything until they see that crescent. So they have maybe 1-2 days notice at max. Well, Yahweh told you to count 7 Sabbaths a year in the beginning. In other words, Yah put you 7 years ahead of the game. 7 years. 7 days. You're always ahead of everybody else. They do have to wait to see these things because Yahweh never gave them his statute. He never gave them his judgment. He never gave them his word. Just like Moses. People ask me, what if we just fell off a cliff or we just woke up after 100 years? How will we know what to do? How will we know our years? How will we know where to go? How will we know anything if after we came out of a cave and we just woke up, we came out and we just want to know time? Well, for the most part, what people do, if they had learned from their enemies, they would go by their enemies. And so they will have 31 days in some months, 28 days in another month, 30 days in this month, 29 days. They will have that. But you go by what Moses went by. Moses learned in Egypt. He was educated in Egypt. He spent a great portion of his life in Egypt. And even though he was in Egypt all those years, Yahweh still told him, he said, Moses, this month shall be the beginning of months. This shall be the first month of the year unto you. And why? Because Moses didn't know the first month. Even though he was raised in Egypt. He didn't know the first month. Well, Yahweh would have never had to tell him. All he knew is what he learned in Egypt. But when he learned something from Yah, Yahweh had to tell him. And for us, that's the only way we're going to know anything. And that is Yah telling us. And we don't have to worry about Yah forsaking us because he said he will do what? Nothing but what he first revealed unto his servants the prophet. That's the only way we're going to know. And the scriptures say, last thing, where there's no vision, the people what? Perish. They perish. But happy is he that keep the law. Because the laws come from the Most High. And the Most High said the law is our life. That's our life. He said he's sown life for the righteous. And so we always look to the light. And why? Because to the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no life in them. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Praise the mighty Yah.
Praise the mighty Yah.
Yah's righteous.
Yah's righteous.
Yah's holy.
Yah's holy.
That Yahweh be magnified.
That Yahweh be magnified.
And he let me go over, and I didn't want to go over, man. Praise the mighty Yah. Shabbat shalom.
And in Israel, this is what we have to do. We have to come to the table of brotherhood and sit down and reason together. And hear difference of opinion. That's a great thing. So I thank Mowreh IshiYAH for taking time out on his Shabbat day. And my other extended family that came along with him. It's a blessing to see you, y'all, here with us joining. And it's a beautiful thing. Praise the mighty Yah. And at this time, we're going to break for 30 minutes. We're going to come back with more teachers here at the house of Yehudah. As a matter of fact, to let everyone know before we adjourn, I'm going to be interviewing Mowreh IshYAH as well and dealing with this subject matter. I know some people is afraid to ask certain questions, and I have a list of questions prepared so he can address for those that might be a little shy to ask.
When are you going to do that?
Mowreh IshYAH, we plan on doing that tomorrow?
Yes, yes.
You want to set a time? We'll do it early or at evening?
Whatever time is convenient for you, and we can do it.
Okay, well, how about 11 a.m.?
11 a.m. it is.
All right, we do it at 11 a.m. We don't know how long we're going to be, but we'll be at 11 a.m.
Yeah, maybe approximately an hour and a half, no longer than an hour and a half, and everybody and anybody is invited.
Yes, you hear it. Everybody, anyone is invited. And we're going to have it at, going to be on Vine Street?
Yeah, we can do it on Vine Street.
Vine Street? Yeah. Yes, at Vine Street, and of course it will be broadcast live where everyone can listen in. Well, until then, we're going to adjourn for 30 minutes, like I said, and come back here with more teachers at the house of Yehudah. Hallelujah! 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 Hallelujah!